talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester. Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Fox's hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed, Gyökeres, a 5-year contract. And this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for $60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer. Meanwhile, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's held talks with Newcastle. For all the latest transfer news, head to the live blog at talksport.com. Now, Wimbledon's apologised to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Sunny Cartle after an embarrassing malfunction of the new electronic line calling system. Wimbledon 2022 finalist Nick Kyrgios told us how he'd react if he was on court.
I think there would have been a couple rackets flying around, that's for sure. It's not good enough, in my opinion.
We're into Manic Monday at Wimbledon today with Novak Djokovic and Yannick Sinner in action. And you can catch Kyrgios' reactions to today's play this evening on our programme Wimbledon Unfiltered with Nick Kyrgios. That's on our YouTube channel. And it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
We're still sort of in that pre-season phase, and I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT. Well, this afternoon, Andy, tell us, after a big sporting victory for you this weekend, more on that shortly. What's coming up?
Coming up over the next 3 hours, Adrian Durham joins us from the Lionesses camp as they regroup ahead of Wednesday's make-or-break match against the Dutch. Angry boxer Harlem Eubank pops in, and Roland Butcher, the first black cricketer to play for England, is here to chat about his autobiography.
We're also after your Hulkenberg-like tales of getting there in the end, plus your Pete Doherty-inspired unusual sporting attire. And Danny Kelly brings us his always entertaining League of Ireland roundup.
It's all this plus Troy Deeney joins us live from Times Square, and we want your votes for the June Clips of the Month.
Yeah, Clips of the Month coming up a little bit later on. Some good ones in there from June. But it is 5 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy. And may I be the first to congratulate you on a fine sporting victory over the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yes.
No do with Chelsea in the Club World Cup.
No.
You won a big game of table tennis, I understand.
I beat my 8-year-old grandson. He took it well, though.
Did he really?
Yeah, oh yes.
He's very competitive, your
incredibly.
grandson.
It's unusual. He doesn't normally take defeat well.
But
He's a real Jacobs, to be really honest.
I wonder where he gets that from. I was about to say that. But where? So do you think it's quite good now and again when kids are very competitive, just to beat them and just to sort of test the water?
Learning to lose is important.
Yeah.
You know, thank goodness England's cricket team are good at it.
Yeah.
And may I offer my hearty congratulations to India's man of the match in the second test, Ben Stokes.
Oh, okay. Oh, a bit harsh.
What an Ange Postecoglou that was.
Yeah.
It's what we do, mate. We put them in. Yeah, brilliant. Don't play the conditions or anything like that. Absolutely ludicrous.
I think Brendan McCullum was hinting at the fact that maybe that was an error.
Yeah. And I like this. I think you're going to cover this tomorrow, but a dossier on the eccentric Sir Julian Khan, dubbed England's worst cricketer, has sold for £4,000 in Norwich. Surely that's Zach Crawley, isn't it?
Andy, you do get a bit medieval on this England team, and then they make you eat. They'll make you eat your words in about 3 days' time.
I've never known anybody do the same technique over and over again. You think, why don't you change it? Why don't you have a look at it? Well, stop getting out in the same way. I mean, it's bonkers.
Well, why don't they get you in to work with him then?
On the psychology.
Yeah, that's it. Stop doing the same shots. Stop getting out the same way. Yeah, thank you, Doctor. That'll be 50 guineas.
Brilliant. That's not good, really.
So, was it a comprehensive win, the table tennis?
No, it was closely fought.
Good.
Closely fought.
Really? You got the two. You've got the youth, the exuberance of youth, and you've got all your many years of experience at the table, being brought to bear. But that's experience beat youth.
Well, you'd expect to beat an 8-year-old, really.
Well,
I would anyway.
And was there some sort of trophy? How did you?
No, it was just a friendly game. Yeah.
Really? Well done. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You've still got it. You can still move around the table, which is good.
It's only table tennis. It's not even paddle or anything like that.
Fair enough.
Oh, well, never mind.
Pete Doherty played at the weekend. He played in a sort of a friendly match. I think he came on as a sub in the game.
Yeah.
Just a little non-league friendly in Margate, part of where he lives. He just had 5 minutes on the pitch, and he played the whole 5 minutes in a brown trilby.
Yeah, not great for a header, though.
It wouldn't have been
Pete's
good.
going up for a header.
Wearing number 10 and a brown hat, it said. Here he is, number 10 and a brown hat. It's Pete Doherty, yeah. He had to go and do a sound check for a gig he was doing down the road. But 5 minutes in a trilby. So we wondered about some unusual sporting attire. If people have come out maybe to bat or to play football in something, blimey, I wasn't expecting to see anybody wearing that today, much like a brown trilby in the Grandad from Only Fools and Horses envelope. Do let us know. talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089 or tweet to TSH&J. TSHANDJ. 03717 223344. To tell us your stories this afternoon.
A spokesman has said that Wayne Rooney joining the BBC is a great signing. Very match today. I'd say,
yeah, no, he's been a good pundit when he's done punditry.
His knowledge is good, and his delivery needs a bit of work, doesn't it? Really, I'd say.
Okay, well, maybe you're the man. Once you finish with Zach Crawley, you can get in the broadcast booth.
Well, I probably could advise him better in that department.
This is the man who stops dead in his tracks if the producer speaks in his ear and answers him on air. But apart from that, you seem the perfect man to sort out.
I am.
Sort out.
No, I know how to help people do it. Doesn't mean I know how to do it myself.
No, that's very true.
Very different.
That's the thing about being a teacher, isn't it? Yeah,
that's how I like to think of myself.
What was it Woody Allen said? Those who teach. Those who can't teach Jim. That's what he said. Whoever Jim is, that was Woody Allen. It's not me or the teachers.
Probably right, really. There you go. I did like this letter, though. This tickled me. I'm fascinated the way people think things work. This is from J.C. Hayes in Sidmouth in Devon.
J.C. Hayes.
He wrote to the Sun today, actually. He said,
to him.
He says, seeing that the BBC got rid of Gary Lineker and saved millions of pounds, why have they put the TV licence up again? Honestly, as if it's connected.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only on, it was a lot of money, but that's not going to make much difference to the overall budget.
The Lineker money, we've saved it.
Yeah, we can put the licence fee down.
That's it. Yeah, it's £5 each, the £5 for a year.
It wouldn't even come to that, it would be about 50p.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Nico Hulkenberg, you like this story as well, Andy, didn't you?
Yes, this is good.
Well, I watched this yesterday. It was, I mean, he got onto that podium position. They were obviously very confident no one's going to catch him because with about 20 laps left, they were saying, "Oh, it's going to be the first podium." I thought, can't his car break down, or would that not happen? But fair play, he stayed there in third.
I mean, I was fascinated when I couldn't believe. I mean, I've heard his name, Hulkenberg. You see him every Grand Prix. You think, he's an established Grand Prix driver. That was his first podium in 239 attempps.
Never tried champagne in his life. First time he ever tried it was sprayed
He
into
forgot
his face.
helmet. You know that thing where they put the helmet on the plinth, sort of like in three
Well, he's
helmets.
not used to doing it, is he?
No, that's it. But Lando Norris brought it in for him.
Yeah.
Although I felt sorry for Lando Norris. You see him get hit in the face by the photographer.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah, afterwards he had to go and have a bit of treatment.
Oh, really? He wasn't cut, was he?
It wasn't deliberate. The bloke just backed into him by mistake.
Oh, dear. So you were interested in getting there in the end? Or you better turn,
thanks very much.
Andy, there he is. It's just the 25 years.
Yeah, this is a new phone.
Day
It's
one,
harder to
turn your
off.
phone off when you're in here.
No.
Day one, that was, they told us. So was this news in? Who's the news from, Andy? Is it
It's from Chris in America, our American correspondent who loves the show. He says, on Saturday I went to Dortmund v Real Madrid. He's sort of reporting on the Club World Cup for me.
Good,
77,000 fans and quite an atmosphere, mostly Real Madrid fans. It sounded more like a Real Madrid home match, but it was good fun and quite an opportunity to see these two teams play a competitive match without flying to Europe. A few of my friends came along and enjoyed themselves. Be well and have a great day. Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Match report there.
Yeah, so it is interesting. What he's been saying to me is the tournament's been growing, and actually it's better than the pre-season games that you get to see, which I think is true.
See, the USA lost the Gold Cup to Mexico. They've been playing this sort of parallel tournament. Poch has been under a bit of pressure. It's something he might return to during the week. See what the mood is in the States. Troy Dean is out there. Yeah, doing a bit of telly, and he's going to join us.
They took the lead, didn't they? But they ended up losing.
So we'll have a chat with Troy a little bit later on. Want to hear from you, as we said, getting there in the end, much like Nico Hulkenberg. Unusual sporting attire because of Pete Doherty playing 6 minutes of a charity game in a brown trilby. So do let us know. talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089, tweet to TSH&J. We'd like to get you involved later on in the votes for the clips of the month. We'll play those out at 3 o'clock. In the first hour today, Rocky Clark, England prop, of course, will be joining us for a chat. Rocky's part of our top team, bringing you the Lions tour, and we're going to take on the game at the weekend. And the squad announced for the midweek game this week, where it feels like the test squad is taking shape. We'll get Rocky's take on that. Danny Kelly's League of Ireland roundup always turns up some interesting yarns, does Danny? So that's one of the few competitive leagues still going on during the summer, which is why Danny joins us for a little chat every Monday. Later on, Andy Brassel guides us around Europe. That Musiala injury was one of the saddest stories of the weekend. Boy, it looked really bad, didn't it? The great Roland Butcher, a man I watched a fair bit of as a kid, going to Lords to watch Middlesex play.
Yeah, me too.
First black cricketer to play for England. Roland's popping in to see us today. Harlem Eubank, very upset, felt he was sawn off at the weekend in his fight against Jack Cattrall in Manchester. They had to be waved off. Went to the judges' scorecards after a clash of heads, and he came out on the wrong side of it. So we'll chat to him. And later on, Christina Uncle from the world of refereeing is going to join us. We'll look at all the big transfer stories and lots more besides. But we'll kick off this afternoon. We'll head to Switzerland, where our top team are bringing you Euro 2025. Poor start for the Lionesses.
Very, really.
In his marks out of 10, Adrian Durham, which he always does for England games, men and women, Serena Wiegand got 1. So we can drill down into that.
It's not good, is it?
Some pretty ropey defending from an England point of view.
Oh, yeah,
and chances
goal.
missed up front.
But they were robbed by I'm sick of these offsides. The quicker Arsene Wenger's new rules can come in, the better. You can't have this. I think it brings football into disrepute.
Shoulder offsides.
It's ridiculous.
Being offside with parts of your body you can't score from.
Yeah, like an inch offside. I mean, that's not what the offside law was supposed to be,
Anyway, Adrian's going to kick us off over in Switzerland very shortly. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. They're very good friends at Tool Station, delivering as little, shall I say, of 30 minutes with Fast Track. Next stop, Tool Station.
He plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. What a very poor start for the Lionesses at the weekend, beaten 2-1 by France. Serena Wiegman, the England boss, spoke to talkSPORT's Courtney Sweetman-Kirk after the defeat.
A positive start to the game, dominant start, a dominant end, but the middle bit a little frustrating?
Yeah, the middle bit was disappointing. Indeed, I thought we started really well. We could have scored in the first minute, and we scored a goal was very unfortunately disallowed. And after that, of course, France came in the game. I think that gave them a boost. I think we caused ourselves a bit problems. We know what their strengths are, and we played too many short passes, and where they could put pressure on, and then when we would get out, then we were a bit too sloppy on the ball, and then and especially when it's on your own half, they become really dangerous, and we had to get that right and do better. We did have moments in the second half. We couldn't harm them that much, and I think when we scored the corner, that helped us, and we tried to force a goal, and I think we were really close, but we didn't get it across the line.
You speak about sort of the offside goal. It looked really tight. You look quite animated as well with the second France goal. Looked like there was a foul on Alessia Russo in the build-up. So do you feel key decisions have gone against you tonight?
Yeah, we were very unlucky. We were very unlucky with these decisions. But yeah, I think I have to talk about us and our performance.
Yeah, I would focus on the performance, ideally, if you want to get it right on Wednesday. Joining us now, bringing us the tournament, of course, all the England and Wales games and the closing stages of the tournament. Adrian Durham joins us. Good afternoon, Aid.
Good afternoon. It is a good afternoon as well. It's been raining, which is my kind of weather. It's not degrees, so I'm actually outdoors, which is fantastic.
Would you mind giving €1 to that woman behind you who's painted herself silver? Because otherwise you won't be able to move.
Does look like one of those.
She's intimidating, that's for sure. It's an art project from the local university, which is close to the stadium, close to where we're staying as well. So I thought you'd like a little bit of culture to view on YouTube while you watch me.
I like a little bit of culture, but I'm not sure wearing a Peterborough shirt is a little bit of culture, Adrian, to be honest. So anyway, let's have a talk about the game and the defending, which wasn't great in key moments, was it?
No, it wasn't great at all. And there's a debate going on about whether England go back to a 3, which they played under Serena Wiegman before, whether they just change personnel in the 4, or is Serena going to be stubborn and do what Serena does and stick with that defence, that back 4, as played on Saturday against France and didn't do particularly well. She could do that and actually say to them, well, look, you lot were rubbish on Saturday. Show everybody that you're actually really good, because we know Lucy Bronze is a player. We know she's better than that. We know Leah Williamson's passing is better than that. Jess Carter can't be that bad again. Alex Greenwood wasn't so bad, but, you know, all of them have to improve. There's no doubt about that. Hannah Hampton was okay in goal. but that back four was shocking. So I don't expect a tactical change. Possibly a personnel change at left back. Niamh Charles might come in. If it was me, though, there would be changes. I'd have Maya Letizia at centre back, but we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it was strange. There was also little moments like the Lauren James. It was very early in the game, but maybe she should be putting that away. Maybe a bit of a lack of composure at the end. Was it Grace Clinton had the shot over the bar? There were little moments when it could have been different. They didn't go our way.
Yeah, if you're clutching a bit, you could say that, and it is a different game if they score. But I kind of heard Serena say, if Lauren James had scored, but she didn't score. And the reality is she didn't score because she hasn't been playing, because she's not been fit, and I was surprised she started, to be honest. We could also look at that disallowed goal, and I'm still looking at the picture of it, and I can't see an offside. Me and VAR are not good friends.
It's so poor, isn't it? We've got to put an end to this. It's just unacceptable. It's not. When the person devised the offside rule, that wasn't the purpose of it, was it? A shoulder, a tiny.
Andy, you're so right. And this is what annoys me about people, including ex-pros, people who work at our station, saying offside is offside. Think about the offside law, why it was brought in, the reason why we have it in football. It's not for that. That is absolutely pathetic. You're changing careers. You're changing the course of an international tournament with stupid, inexplicable decisions like that. I mean, that's away from the fact that England were really poor. They might have gone on to lose the game anyway. We'll never know. But that goal should have stood. And what they could do from that, there's nothing you can change about it now. But what they can do is say, hang on a minute, we've been hard done by here. We scored a perfectly good goal, could have gone on to win the game, built on that, and been solid through the tournament and won it. They can actually take that grievance, that injustice, and they could use it and channel it, and maybe that just might help them get through this game against the Netherlands.
We slightly brushed aside the importance of the girls that decided they couldn't be there. They didn't want to be there this year. Those that have sort of stepped away.
Emma Hayes felt Millie Bright was a big miss.
Exactly, and you did feel Hannah Hampton, I thought, did really well. She made some good saves. She was busy. But, in those big moments, those experienced players just make such a difference, I think, when it's not going your way.
Yeah, we've been discussing it as a talkSPORT team, Tash Dowie and Courtney Sweetman-Kirk and Joe Shannon and myself, and we all felt that a Millie Bright, loud on the pitch, would have made a big difference. However, I do firmly believe that none of the three, Kirby, Millie Bright, or Mary Queen of Strops, would have started the game. So maybe Millie Bright might have been able to come on and shown some leadership. But listen, it's their decisions. I mean, what can you do? They've left us in the lurch, and we've got to carry on with it. Good luck to them, and I hope they're all okay. But, you just got to forget about them because it ain't going to help now. One thing I would say, though, is Maya Letizia is a centre-half. Serena, for Man United, Serena sees her as a right-back, which is bizarre. I mean, it's inexplicable. Sometimes you can't question Serena with her record, but the fact that she sees her only as a right-back and not a centre-back makes no sense whatsoever because in club football, she's a centre-half. And actually, Maya Letizia is known for being loud on the pitch at Manchester United. She's almost exactly what England need right now because as much as I like Leah Williamson, there's no shouty leadership going on from the captain. There's no shouty leadership going on from anybody. Earps and Bright bought that in abundance, and we've lost that from the team, and we desperately need it.
The Lionesses have had a lot of plaudits since they won the Euros, but it's interesting to see how they react to this, especially if they don't win on Wednesday night, to get the sort of criticism that the men's team get. It's harder to deal with once, the expectations are higher.
Well, you're right, and I don't know if you've seen my player ratings from Saturday. They're not good. There's one or two. Russo came out of it okay. Lauren James was okay as well. Michelle Adjaman, the sub, was only on for 10 minutes, but she was terrific. Got a good mark. She was the best mark, actually, which says it all. There are a few 2 out of 10s. Serena herself got a 1 out of 10. But listen, that's absolutely right. We should scrutinise what's going on. Scrutinise fairly what's going on, because players like Georgia Stanway, Lauren Hemp, have just come back from injury. They're pitched into the first team. And if there's a reason why they're not playing well, it's because they've been out for some time. So that's on Serena to a large extent. But players who aren't playing particularly well, somebody like Lucy Bronze, who's so experienced, was so bad on Saturday. I've never seen her play that badly. They have to look at themselves and they have to step up and just be brilliant on Wednesday, because if England lose and go out of the tournament after 2 games, that's a shambles. It's a disgrace. And you're right, in the men's game, the England senior men's team would get absolutely ruined for it. And I think that the England women's team are reaching that same stage of scrutiny whereby there will be a lot of criticism, and rightly so as well. But I do think they will actually win the game.
Oh, fingers crossed. Adrian, we'll catch up with you later in the week. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That's Adrian Durham. They're over in Switzerland for us, bringing us
it's
Euro
win or
2025.
bust, and they know that. So.
Yeah, no, it is. So England versus the Netherlands, 5 o'clock kickoff on Wednesday, and we'll bring you that, and we'll bring you France v Wales. We're on talkSPORT 2 as well at 8 o'clock. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and a little bit later on this hour we'll be joined by Danny Kelly, the League of Ireland roundup, always entertaining. Rocky Clark's going to join us for a Lions chat, but before that we make our first visit to Wimbledon, get an update from Lisa O'Sullivan.
Good afternoon from Centre Court, where the doors are opening because Novak Djokovic is about to come out and play his 4th round match against Alex de Minaur. Now, these two were due to meet last year, but de Minaur injured himself in the match and had to withdraw. So Djokovic had a walkover at the quarter-final stage last year. Djokovic also has a 2-1 win record against the Australian. Another win for Djokovic today will see him become the 3rd man in the Open era to reach the quarter-final here at the age of 38 or over. Ken Rosewell in 1974 and Roger Federer, who is in the Royal Box today, are the other two. Alongside Federer in the Royal Box, it is worth pointing out, lads, that Paul Tidsdale, former manager Exeter City, director of football at Celtic, is here as the guest of Mr. Leon Smith, who is, of course, the British Davis Cup captain. So action about to get underway on Centre Court. On court number 2 at the minute, Marin Cilic is up against it. He's in a 3rd set tie-break, trailing Flavio Cobolli of Italy by 2-0.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm guessing Paul Tisdale, best dressed man in the Royal Box.
Oh, that's very true.
Always well. He's probably even wearing a cap today, I'd like to think he is. I'm sure we'll see pictures of him later on. We're talking Lions next. That wasn't their finest performance at the weekend, but we now have the team for the next warm-up match, and Rocky Clark, part of our top team, bringing you the Lions Tour Down Under exclusively live on talkSPORT, will be joining us to give her take on the team that face the Brumbies midweek. That's all to come.
talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Foxes hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed, Gyökeres, a 5-year contract. And this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for $60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer, and it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
We mentioned earlier on that Pete Doherty and the Libertines, of course, played a bit of charity football the other day, 6 minutes around a gig he was doing in Margate. And he played in full kit, number 10 on his back, and a brown trilby in the style of Grandad from Only Fools and Horses.
That is his chosen.
It is a trademark.
Hat,
Look, but you might take it off if you're playing football.
You would.
We're interested in unusual sporting attire. During our workplace regular lunchtime five-a-side games, one of the listeners says, didn't put your name on this, one of my colleagues, Nathan, would rock up in the full latest lead strip, plus a weightlifting belt over the top.
Why?
This was to hold his belly in.
Oh, I see.
He regarded it an essential piece of kit. There we are. Well, you don't often see that, do you, in the Premier League?
Not really, no.
Thank you very much for that. You can keep those coming. talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH and J. So, yes, we now have the team for the ACT Bunbury's game in Canberra Wednesday morning. It's going to be live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2 at 11 o'clock. Before we chat the former Saracens and England prop Rocky Clark, Alfie Reynolds has caught up. He's part of our top team over in Oz, and he caught up with Lions back row Tom Curry ahead of that warm-up game on Wednesday.
I think for us, it's like I said, playing with each other. A great opposition, being able to put your best foot forward, all of those sort of points. There's loads to get excited about. Obviously, you know what the tour schedule is. We're not stupid, but I think, attack it this week. I think, for us, it's about making sure the team wins. Like, the team wins no matter, and obviously if we play well, that'll help the team, but the team has to win. You talk about personal performances and players stepping up, but, the team has to keep winning.
Tom Curry there. He starts on Wednesday. Rocky Clark joins us now. Hi, Rocky.
Hiya, how you doing, folks?
Yeah, we're not too bad, thanks. Before we come on to the team for Wednesday, let's have a little look back at the weekend. What did we learn, if anything, Rocky, from that performance?
Well, we'd led in with a couple of good performances against Western Force and Reds, and then it sort of took a step backwards. A bit underwhelming was the last game against the Waratahs. They were a step up in physicality, and their defensive line speed really put the Lions under strain. And we learned that, players stepped up in that second half, but that first half it was a bit not too much to talk about, to be honest. A bit underwhelming. So yeah, things certainly need to improve this weekend for sure.
What did you make of Andy Farrell being upset about the pitch being overwatered? I mean, it's probably best not to say anything, is it really? Just let it go.
Oh yeah, people will try things, and if you can get a 1% up on somebody else, they'll always do it. But that the game's gone, and you have to be able to play under all weather constraints. So yeah, for me, it's about focusing on the next job really.
Yeah, I didn't think he was complaining too much. It was partly.
It was slightly because it was Mike Catt and he's an old mate and stuff.
Partly tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So we now know the team, and the general consensus seems to be we are heading much closer to the 15 that will start the first test.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw this team, I did think that we're not far off. There might be one or two spots that will change potentially. I mean, there's still the question mark over that centre pairing. Is it Aki and Ringrose, or is it Tuipulotu and Jones? Both went well in previous weeks, so we'll see how that goes. King on in at fullback is probably going to be the starting 15, so he just needs to have a solid game. We saw Gibson Park and Finn Russell go really well in the game earlier, and that front row made a big difference when they came on in the last game as well. So McCarthy played himself in, I think, as well with his player of the match performance, and it'll be interesting to see how Chesham goes. There's a question mark over Curry for me, and then it's a big fight out between Conan and Earl, and I think a couple of players are missing. Jack Morgan, I think, is there or thereabouts, obviously player of the match as well, and then Alex Mitchell, I think, will be a bench player, but he just showed his quality in that second half where he stepped up and got the team on that front foot.
Marcus Smith is on the bench as well, isn't he?
He is, and he made a good impact when he came on. Unfortunately for him, he kicked it too far on one of the penalty kicks, but apart from that, he brought a bit of fizz, bit of electricity into the game and put players away. And I think he's a real attacking threat, especially against a tired defence. So it's interesting to see him there, and he covers a lot as well. Obviously, losing Daly, we lose that cover option, but it'd be interesting to see how Smith goes.
Brian Moore, the old England hooker, was writing today in his column in the Telegraph about Marcus Smith, and feeling that maybe he's been a little bit let down. He said it's odd that he's not been given a chance to start a game on the tour in his best position at fly half.
Yeah, I think he always came in more as a sort of a player that can cover a lot. Obviously, with Elliot Daly's inclusion as well, there was a few question marks, but Elliot Daly had been playing so well and potentially into that 23 squad. And I think Smith has been unlucky not to get that start, but in his preferred position. But sometimes you just got to bide your time and see what happens. And obviously, we know Finn Russell has been in form all year and has just shown his class over the last few games as well. But I think they wanted to see Finn Smith, how he went and at fly half, and it looked as though he couldn't quite deal with the pressure in the last game. So we'll see about Smith.
It sounds like Australia were a bit rusty as well in their 21-18 win against Fiji. I don't know if you saw any, but...
Did you see what Joe Schmidt, that was those comments he made?
He steamed into them, didn't he?
Well, he sort of said, I've got no real confidence. He said, well, I've got resolve, but not confidence. I mean, that's going to be a headline if you're a coach, the confidence in the fact that they can beat the Lions. But a bit of a weird thing to say.
Slightly odd, but we know coaches love, getting a headline and taking the pressure off of their team. It used to be Eddie Jones with all the chat, so I'm not surprised. But if there's one person who knows a lot about, players who will be playing certainly in that Irish side, obviously it'll be Schmidt who knows them inside out. So yeah, it will be an exciting game. But the Aussies weren't at their best, we know that, and they weren't at full strength either. But yeah, it was certainly, again, another underwhelming performance from them. So we need to make sure both teams are rocking and rolling. So we've got a humdinger of 3 tests.
Yeah, that's right, Rocky. The amount of Irish players will be on the pitch in that first test and on the bench as replacements. I mean, you're right, Joe Schmidt knows an awful lot about them, doesn't he? And he would argue probably how to sort of counter their threat to an extent. So it's an interesting little sort of sidebar, isn't it? Interesting storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'll know their strengths and weaknesses and, where you can potentially get an edge over those players. And, we saw from the last game against the Waratahs, the Lions very much wanted to try and stick to their patterns and their shapes, which actually probably wasn't what they needed to do. They needed to think about getting that punch first to suck in the defenders, but going from width to width meant that the opposition were able to get a huge amount of line speed and put pressure on them. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Schmidt tries to shake things up a bit.
Interesting. Well, we'll see you on Wednesday. Rocky, for now, thanks very much.
Thank you, gents.
Rocky Clark there, Saracens in England. And she's part of our team bringing you the Lions tour down under. And it's live and exclusive, of course. And we'll be back with that Brumbies game in Canberra on Wednesday. All the build-up from 10 on talkSPORT 2 and 11 o'clock start as the 15 for the first test starts to take shape. Talking of Irishmen, as we were then, we head to Ireland next.
Beautiful.
And we're going to have a chat with Danny Kelly. It's his League of Ireland roundup every Monday. He just turns up fascinating stories from the League of Ireland, one of the few competitive leagues still going throughout the summer. And Danny will bring us the best of it in a few moments' time. We're here with our good friends at Toolstation. You can get thousands of products delivered to you with Fast Track on the Toolstation app. Next stop, Toolstation.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Now, Oasis kicked off their long-awaited gigs in Cardiff over the weekend. I'm sure Andy Goldstein will be telling you more about that at 4. If you didn't manage to get tickets, listen up now as talkSPORT can get you in. Our competition to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester on July the 19th, plus £5,000 spending money and a hotel, ends tonight, Andy.
For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 by 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July, 18 plus UK, excluding Northern Ireland.
This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Here we are. Good afternoon. Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. A bit of Boomtown Rats to kick off. Danny Kelly's League of Ireland Roundup. Good afternoon, Dan.
Hello, how are you doing? The song, of course, was looking after number one, which is very pertinent to the first story I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've dug up some interesting tales as always for us, Danny. Where are we going to kick off?
Well, I think I'm going to go outside of my bailiwick and my brief here because I know you've over there in Britain, you've been following the Salt Road fraud very, very closely. It's all the news I know. But we can match it here in the Republic of Ireland. This week saw the trial of a man called DJ Carey. I need you to understand how big DJ Carey is in Irish sport. He is approximately David Beckham. Wow. About the same time as Beckham was doing his thing, DJ Carey was a central part of the great Kilkenny hurling team that dominated the sport for about 15 years. He won 5 All-Irelands and was the poster boy of one of the greatest teams that God ever put shoes upon. Well, in the last 24 hours, he has been found guilty of 13 counts of fraud. Now, there's a serious part to this, but of course our job is to find the amusing parts. DJ Carey has lived an astonishing life. Often his partner was, and she's got nothing to do with the frauds, I assure you, his partner was a TV star. She's one of the dragons in the Irish version of Dragon's Den. Oh, really? They live for at least part of the time at the K Club. It couldn't be a more exclusive address. They were living high on the hog. At one stage, DJ Carey owed the Bank of Ireland, owed the bank €7.2 million. This was later dropped down in one of those mad things that happened to a few grand. Now, he then started, as we found out in court, he's pleaded guilty, so I can speak freely about it, and the sentencing is in October. He set out on what was really a full-time con, where he pretended that he had terminal cancer and sent out in what the police described, or the prosecutor described as a full-time job, often working 15 hours a day on the emails. He went to the great and the good and the small and the insignificant of Irish society to raise funds for his treatment. Among those approached were Mick McCarthy, Daniel O'Donnell, most of the government, and on and on and on. So having gathered up this money and pretending he was going back and forth to the USA for treatment, he was actually attending the Super Bowl, the US Masters, and playing at the exclusive Kiowa Island Golf Club, where I think it's several grand per round. I mean, it really is an astonishing tale of convoluted and long-term deception. Now, the bit I'm coming to, and you shouldn't laugh at things like this, but of course that's what you two will do, is that the picture that he used to illustrate his terminal diagnosis of cancer is the one you always see, where the poor victim, and, you know, we really do sympathise with people, have that tube up their nose with a piece of sticking plaster holding it in place. During the trial in Dublin, it was pointed out to DJ Kerry that the tube was, in fact, the charging cable of a mobile phone. He had put the iPhone charging cable up his nose, stuck it down with a piece of sticking plaster, said, "I'm really ill, me. I need all your help." I have a suspicion that the sentencing in October will not go well for DJ.
Have you cast the movie yet? Is Colin Farrell? Have you spoken to his people?
I mean, Farrell would be brilliant at it, wouldn't he? And they could all be in it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the movie, of course, it can only be hours away. You're absolutely right, Paul.
What a story that is. Honestly, somehow that passed us by, considering there's only a stretch of water between us. That's an amazing story.
I won't be topping that anytime soon, I promise you.
We've got a goal of the month story.
Yes, goal of the month. The goal of the month for St Patrick's Athletic, one of our leading clubs, has not yet been announced for June. But I think I can announce it. So congratulations to Simon Power, because in the month of June they played 5 league games, St Patrick's Athletics, and only managed the 1 goal. Right. So I'm going for Simon Power's goal. Now, Paul, this is a particular concern for me and you, because Mason Melia, superstar striker in prospect, plays up front for St Patrick's Athletic. However, of course, things change in football, and they played on Friday night against Bohemians. Bohemians 0, St Patrick's Athletic 0. So the goal of the month for this month is already well underway. All
right. Oasis obviously has been big news this week, and I can add 2 stories to this for you. But we've talked a lot in the past about how Bohemians Football Club in Dublin make most of their money with making astonishingly trendy, sometimes very political jerseys, football shirts for the masses. Well, their new one, because of course Dublin is just as excited as anywhere else about the Oasis concerts, features the Oasis logo. Now, it was the deal originally done with Oasis was they would wear it in the FA Cup here in Ireland, but of course they couldn't wait. They've already worn it once in the League of Ireland. It's a really, the shirt looks lovely. It's got the Oasis logo on it as well. It's going 50% of the proceeds are going to 2 brilliant charities: the Irish Community Care Centre in Manchester and the Music Generation Ireland. They're 2 good charities, but really interesting vibes with this, because the launch video features Paul Weller playing snooker in the brilliantly named Cross Guns snooker hall, which is the oldest snooker hall in Dublin. And if you want to get a grip, I've finally got the figures for you now, Paul, of how much Bohemians make and how much they've changed the way that clubs can be financed just by these shirts. 10 years ago, in 2014, they made 100k from shirt sales. 10 years later, they've made €2 million from their this is a club that attracts 3,000 through the gate, but they made 2 million from shirt sales, because the shirt sales are universal and worldwide. Fantastic. It makes you wonder why more teams don't do this. I mean,
I don't understand it. The model is there now. If you make shirts that people want, people will go away from their normal allegiances just to have the fantastic, but the Bob Marley shirt, the things they've done have been so groovy. I can move on with Oasis then, because Stephen Kelly, who used to be the manager of the Republic of Ireland and is noted for his sort of reveries in his interviews. He'll go off on one, Stephen, often with a tear in his eye. And of course, as is the way with all media, he was asked if he is going to the Oasis gigs, which caused Stephen, I don't know they expected this, I'll give you the exact quote. "You're asking me if I'm an Oasis fan. Well, a few of our family are musicians, so I think they get played in our house a lot. It's obviously my era growing up. But the Stone Roses are better. I'm much more influenced by the Stone Roses than Oasis. But Oasis are good. They're okay, but I prefer the Stone Roses."
Okay, get the idea.
So the message is loud and clear. Britpop-wise, he's more of a Stone Roses man than he is about Oasis. I mean, Kenny is an amazing interview, because you can ask any question, you'll almost certainly get back more than you asked for, but rarely the actual answer to the question that you want.
Yeah, that's very good. Now, Derry Waterford last Friday, what went on, Danny?
Yeah, I think this is. I mean, I don't remember an occasion like this in any football. I watch a lot of football, don't I? Derry, in a league which is sometimes bereft of goals, hello St Patrick's Athletic, Derry won by 7 goals to 2. And there were, in effect, 3 hat-tricks, because Liam Boyce got a hat-trick of actual goals for Derry. But the bit that struck me as being very, very unusual was the hat-trick of assists. Gavin White got 3 assists. Michael Duffy got 4 assists. Wow. They both actually scored a goal as well. So you've got 2 hat-tricks of assists in the same match. I mean, I don't really recall very often getting 1 hat-trick of assists. But in that 7-2 victory, Boyce, White and Duffy scored, let me get it right here, 5 goals between them and 7 assists.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. Yeah. We're out of time, I'm being told, but very quickly, I heard you talking to Andy Brassel on Trans-Europe Express last night about the fact that Champions League qualifying gets underway this week when the old season hasn't actually finished.
I know. Very quickly, we've got a huge game in Ireland. Shelbourne from the Republic take on Linfield from Northern Ireland. Shelbourne are in terrible form. They sacked the manager. He's left by mutual agreement, Damien Duff. Ex-Premier League player Joey O'Brien is now the new manager. But they have a huge advantage over Linfield. Linfield haven't started their new season. Shelbourne in the middle of theirs. And so I make the Dubliners slight favourites just because of that fact. Linfield have got to hit the ground running here.
Good stuff, Danny. As always, we'll catch up with you next week. Thanks very much. There we are. There's Danny Kelly with the very latest from the League of Ireland. Some of those stories, I'm sure Martin McDonough, who brought us Banshees of Inisherin and in Bruges, will be getting the rights for that and writing the script. What a story. Blimey. Anyway, Harlan Eubank pops in to see us. Fought of the weekend in Manchester against Jack Cattrall. Didn't go his way in unusual circumstances. If you've not seen the fight, we'll talk you through it later on. We'll also be chatting to Roland Butcher, first black player to play for England, and he's joined us in the studio to talk about his autobiography, Breaking Barriers. And Andy Brassel, the aforementioned there, will be joining us with some of the big stories around Europe. A weekend on the pitch dominated by that terrible injury to Jamal Musiala in the game at the weekend. So that's all to come.
talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Foxes hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed, Gyökeres, a 5-year contract, and this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for $60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer. Meanwhile, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's held talks with Newcastle. For all the latest transfer news, head to the live blog at talksport.com. Now, Wimbledon's apologised to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Sunny Cartle after an embarrassing malfunction of the new electronic line calling system. Wimbledon 2022 finalist Nick Kyrgios told us how he'd react if he was on court.
I think there would have been a couple rackets flying around, that's for sure. It's not good enough, in my opinion.
We're into Manic Monday at Wimbledon today with Novak Djokovic and Yannick Sinner in action. And you can catch Kyrgios' reactions to today's play this evening on our programme Wimbledon Unfiltered with Nick Kyrgios. That's on our YouTube channel. And it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
We're still sort of in that pre-season phase, and I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Hawksbee Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Boxer Harlem Eubank will be with us in around 10 minutes' time to talk us through his fight, his defeat to Jack Catterall at the weekend. A fight that was waved off after a clash of heads, went to the scorecards, and Harlem was on the wrong end of the decision. He's not a happy man. He'll be telling us why. The great Roland Butcher joins us, first black player to play for England, Middlesex player, and we'll be chatting to him a little bit later on about his autobiography, Breaking Barriers, and Andy Brassel, looking at all the big stories around Europe. Bizarre tale involving Jamie Vardy and Patrick Vieira, if you've not heard it already. So we'll tell you more about that, amongst other things, later on. And the clips of the month for you to vote on in hour 3. Before that, though, Andy's phone went off a little bit earlier. He's got a new phone. Martin said, I'm gutted the accordion has gone and been replaced with a ding.
And I can't find the accordion.
Can we find the accordion for Andy? So it was like a da-da, but like a flourish, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be a chord.
Martin,
I'll have another
see what we can do. A friend of mine once played golf at the Belfry with only socks on his feet, still hitting his tee shots over 250 yards, says Steve. We're asked, this is because Pete Doherty played a charity game in Margate yesterday he had a kit on as well, but he was wearing a brown trilby for his 6-minute appearance. So we're looking for unusual sporting attire. And you mentioned, Andy, Sir Julian Kahn. We might speak about him tomorrow. He was dubbed the world's worst cricketer, but he loved cricket. He absolutely loved the game. He was a sort of entrepreneur.
Yeah, I know about that. Anybody that's like is a cricket tragic.
Yeah. And apparently we're going to try and chat to the auctioneers who sold off a collection of his kind of cuttings and everything he assembled. It was supposed to go for about £200-300 and it sold for £4,000. So it tells you about this guy's notoriety. He used to take travelling teams around the world to play tournaments, but apparently wasn't much of a player. Anthony in Nottingham said it was great to hear his name. I played my club cricket at his ground about half a mile from Trent Bridge.
Wow.
What a character. Had his own team, sponsored a lot of the international touring teams. Also, I understand his butler was his personal umpire. So I take it he got the decision.
Quite handy to have a personal umpire.
And he also invented inflatable cricket pads, which, as far as I know, didn't take off.
No, they wouldn't.
Imagine that.
What a mad
I mean,
idea.
if it hit
I
the
suppose
pads,
they'd be lighter.
I mean, imagine your leg buys, they go flying to the boundary, wouldn't they? Like ping off them like a trampoline, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
Sounds very strange.
talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089, tweet TSH&J. Back in the late 80s, playing a pre-season friendly for Fort Perch Rock, an amateur side on the Wirral. Our centre forward, my cousin Doug, had forgotten his boots, so he had to play in sandals with socks on, of course. But he didn't let the side down, unlike the rest of us. They played in sandals with socks.
Yeah.
Football. I mean, we've had, you get now and again, you've had people, we had a couple today, somebody turned up playing in shoes, pairing of brown slip-ons.
Oh, you know my story about Jeff Thompson, the legendary Australian bowler.
Yeah, came into bowl at a Bunbury game.
Yeah, he was only supposed to bowl the first ball, and he was wearing like a suit and shoes and everything, and he bowled this ball, and it was a gentle sort of first ball, and the batsman, a club player, whacked it for 4, which didn't please Tomo.
Yeah.
And I was standing at mid-off. He said, "Watch this, mate. You're going to see what's going to happen." And he comes charging in, and he bowls like absolutely full. Jeff Thompson stumps out the ground and everything. I went, oh, all right, okay.
Yeah,
it was
brilliant.
Impressive.
Unusual sporting attire. Keep those coming. Yes, it was Powley, the Chelsea fan, telling us one of the boys forgot his boots, had to play in brown lace-ups for 90 minutes in the Fulham Sunday League. Let's hear more of those. Talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH&J. Let's check in with Lisa O'Sullivan at Wimbledon. We have questions for Lisa, but first let's get an update, Lisa. What's going on?
The first set is complete on centre court in 29 minutes, and Alex de Minaur has taken the first set 6 games to 1 against Novak Djokovic. Wow. It's very flat on centre court, and Novak Djokovic is definitely very flat. Something not right here. He's not serving well. We saw the other day that a trainer came on with some magic powders for him. He hasn't called for the trainer this time. He spoke then about having a stomach bug or a stomach thing that came on very suddenly, and he didn't feel great. But then once he'd had the magic powders, he felt great again. So something not entirely well with Novak Djokovic here at the moment. Marin Cilic has taken the third set, so he's into a fourth set against Flavio Cobolli of Italy. And we've just seen Belinda Bencic, the former Olympic champion, take the first set against Ekaterina Alexandrova in the women's match on court 1.
Now, this is an interesting... Strawberries and cream. We had the M&S strawberries and cream sarnie, of course, that was sampled on breakfast by the guys. Went down the storm. Have you had one, Lisa? You tried one?
I have.
Good.
I had one on Saturday night. I had to come into TalkSport Towers to replace some equipment, so I rewarded myself with the ultimate strawberry sandwich, and I have to say, I was impressed.
Well, if you want to try another derivation, try Iga Swiatek's strawberries and pasta.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah, it's an old Polish recipe. Little kids in Poland apparently used to lap this up, made with fruit, cream and sugar, blended together, served on short pasta. It was the sort of thing you go to your granny's in the summer in Poland, and she'd knock this up for you. It was pasta, strawberries, a little bit of yoghurt, says Iga said. They're beautiful. So maybe give that a crack.
It does remind me a bit of at school dinners you used to get macaroni, didn't you? It was kind of cooked in milk.
Effectively the same sort of thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you can have sweet pastas.
I'll stick with the sandwich, I think.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed Rufus the Hawk, the Wimbledon Hawk, who's been keeping...
Do you know, I'm so old, Andy, that I actually remember when Rufus the Harris Hawk first turned up here. I've been covering Wimbledon for TalkSport. My first one was 2002.
You remember him as an egg?
Rufus is 17 now.
He is. Exactly right. He is. And but apparently they want a successor to him, and they think the best way to do it is for him to breed. Yeah. And they put him in with a mate, but unfortunately, Pamela, the mate, they didn't hit it off. Pamela, and it's a strange name for a hawk. Pamela Harris Hawk.
And it didn't happen, no?
No, apparently not.
Okay.
I haven't got the details.
I was going to say what they need is they need someone to inherit his skills at scaring off the pigeons, because that's what he does. He comes and flies around. They don't mind some of the smaller birds. So again, another thing that I've noticed in my many years here for TalkSport court is there's pied wagtails that virtually live on the centre court. So when there's nobody here, you can see the pied wagtails going around eating all the grubs and mites and stuff that are on centre court, which is they don't use pesticides on.
Right.
And they can live up to 11 years, apparently, in the wild, some of these pied wagtails. So some of those are quite happy down here, but you don't want the Harris hawk to scare them off because they're doing a good job eating all the bugs.
It must confuse the birds when they close the roof.
Yeah, that's
What's going on?
Bouncing off the top of it. Now,
well, anyone in London who's been on the tube will have seen pigeons taking a ride from station to station occasionally, which is very peculiar.
That freaks you out. Yesterday we had the Cam Norrie Jarry game, which went on, which was very exciting. But Jarry wasn't a happy man, was he? Because of the excessive bouncing of the balls of Cam Norrie. He had a word with the umpire, I think, at one point, because he does like to bounce the ball a lot between points, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and it's when you have a first serve, you've got 25 seconds to get your first serve underway, so your service action needs to start within 25 seconds. The second serve, there's no shot clock on it, and that's where Cam Norrie was doing this kind of series of 3 bouncing, which he does, and he's kind of almost unaware of it, and he didn't quite realise how wound up Jarry was getting at the other end. And Jarry tried it to kind of make a point, having had a go at the umpire and said, look, what can you do about this? And the umpire said, well, he's not doing anything wrong. So Jarry thought he'd have a go at it to make a point, served a double fault. So it didn't really help him at all. But I mean, we see it with Novak Djokovic when he's under pressure. He can bounce the ball up to 30 times, and it is fascinating. It's a real tell. Talking about Marin Cilic, who's playing at the moment as well, he's got a real tell on his serves when he's not serving well. His foot kind of comes up and he twitches a bit. So, you know, Cam Norrie, who will stay in a match until it gets dark because of his incredibly large lungs, he will do everything he can to, you know, just disrupt, but it's not conscious, really.
Wow.
That bit is not conscious.
I think they kind of parted on fairly good terms. It looked a bit.
Yeah, I think it was right in the end. But
that was the interesting thing, because Jarry was saying that he was being too loud. So there was us speculating it was all about the serve, and he's going, yeah, but you're really vocal, aren't you? And we're thinking, really, is he? I don't think he is.
Very
Far too
strange.
busy kind of running left and right, you know.
This is a strange story. Oh, we've got no time.
We'll come back to this. Lisa, we'll have more time later. We'll catch up. We've got some other stuff for you as well in and around Wimbledon. Towels. We're going to talk about nicking towels. I hope you've nicked one. Everybody else seems to have nicked one. We'll chat to Lisa a little bit later on, because Harlem Eubank is popping into the studio. He fought Jack Cattrall in Manchester at the weekend. It was on the wrong end of a technical decision after a clash of heads. He'll be joining us in the studio shortly to talk us through it. He wasn't a happy man. I guess that's still the case. We're here with our good friends at Toolstation. Get fast track delivery in as little as 30 minutes at the Toolstation app. Next stop, Toolstation.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Hawksbee Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Now up in Manchester on Saturday. Harlem Eubank fought Jack Cattrall. The fight had to be stopped after a clash of heads, really nasty clash of heads. So Harlem lost it, went to the scorecards, and Harlem lost on a technical decision. He's joined us in the studio now. Harlem, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're just having a look at the cut. It's a bit of a nasty one, but certainly not as nasty as Jack Cattrall's was.
Yeah, it's a shame the fight, had to end like that. It was a good fight that I felt like was about to take light as we both started to exchange, and that's when the cuts happened when we both started to exchange, and the head clashes happened as a result of it.
I mean, it was completely accidental. You were sort of saying as southpaw, sometimes that sort of thing can happen when fighters are similar heights.
Yeah, Jack, being a southpaw, similar height as me, sometimes as you come in, it often happens that you collide with the heads. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, heads clash all the time in fights, but I take it as fighters, the difference between just a coming together and one that's... Because, I mean, you might have heard him because he immediately looked up and you could see it was a bad one, and he looked at the referee, didn't he?
Yeah, I think about 20 seconds before is when I got mine, and I said to the referee just to let him know that it was a head rather than a shot. I said that was a head ref, and then about 20 seconds later the next one happened, and that is when his gash opened up, and his was obviously a lot worse than mine.
What round was it?
It was round six.
Yeah. So, I mean, you must have known. As soon as you looked up, you could probably see how bad that cut was on him.
Yeah, well, I couldn't see it initially until the blood started running, and then once I see the blood running, I think that's when the ref kind of started to pay more attention to it as well.
Yeah. So, and then there was a bit of confusion because no one quite knew whether initially it had been stopped because of your cut or because of his cut, so it all got a bit confusing in there.
Yeah, I think we was all confused because I think through the TV or the commentary, I heard it was my doctor, but my doctor was clearly saying to me that she didn't stop me from fighting on with my cut. And then I think as it went on, we realised that I don't think his doctor had stopped him, but I think the ref made a decision to stop his cut, and the ref obviously overrules the corner, and I think he has, I think he had the right to make that decision with the severity of Jack's cut to stop the fight at that point. But it was more so of not knowing what's going on, and the confusion more than anything.
I saw after the fight you gave an interview. One of the people working as a commentator, Carl Frampton, former world champion, of course, was there, and you were a bit upset with him, Harlem, at the end.
Yeah, well, him and Tony Bellew, I haven't watched the fight back, so I haven't seen the commentary, but I'm sure the commentators have done a great job, as they normally do, commentating on the fight. But I was in the medical room with Jack Cattrall. We were laying not far from each other, side by side, both getting stitched up on the eyebrow, and I had to endure Tony Bellew and launching personal attacks at myself, and it was more of kind of look more like a pub jolly up rather than a DAZN broadcast.
Did he think you did it deliberately? Is that what he was implying? Or?
No. I don't think they were. He was more. It was more personal remarks than commentating on the fight. And they're there to commentate on the action of the fight. So I didn't understand the personal attacks. So yeah, that it was more of a case of that, to be honest.
Also, Conor Benn came into your dressing room to watch your hands being wrapped. You something you clearly wasn't expecting. Is that allowed? I mean, can anybody just wander in and do that, claiming to be from the other camp? Or?
I don't know. I have to check with the Boxing Board of Control because the Go Along Get Along gang sent in a guy that's failed 2 drugs tests to check if I was cheating. A guy that hasn't got a license with the British Boxing Board of Control.
I guess he was trying to get inside your head, Harlan, wasn't he? I mean, that was his thinking, just at a key moment before the fight.
I think so, but yeah, I mean, clearly it didn't work, and I get that's just something, something that the Go Along Get Along gang, will do anything they can to try and get one over, and they were unsuccessful.
Your uncle Chris Senior wasn't there, was he? He wasn't at the fight. Did he talk to you before the fight? Did he have a chat? Or?
Yeah, he gave me a call. He had to be over in Jamaica, so he was gutted that he was missing it. But I spoke to him many times throughout the week, and he told me that there is some type of disdain for the Eubank name, and if you're going in their backyard on that show, that you have to take it out of the hands of the judges. And I took that on board and was aware that I would have to go in there and win in style, and I didn't get a chance.
You wanted to take it into the later rounds. You felt you wanted, when he got tired, you felt you could capitalise, but you never got that chance, obviously, because the fight had to be stopped.
Yeah, Jack's a world-class operator. So early on, he's looking to counter. He's looking to sit back and catch you making a mistake. And I wanted to kind of take that away from him early and make him pay for it later on. But the fight didn't go that far to give us.
Did you agree that maybe he was in the lead at that stage based on?
Most definitely. I agree that the fight may have been 4 rounds to M2 to me, and I thought before the fight it may be that way because of the level he's at and the tactical approach that I went with to go in there and win the fight. But if I would have known that it would have been a 6-round fight, I of course would have changed the tactics. And it's just a shame that the fight didn't get to take light.
Well, you two got unfinished business now, but the trouble is that nature of that cut and where it is, it's going to take a fair old time to heal. So, have you got any other plans? You're going to suppose sit down soon and think about what you do next?
Yeah, definitely. My team are working away already to get something in place. It was great. It was a good experience for me. My first fight at world level, and I enjoyed it in there. I felt like I gained a lot of experience from that fight, and I'll take that into whatever we have next.
Terrestrial telly's been good for you, isn't it? You've popped up a lot on telly, and I think you've built a bit of a following because it's not behind a paywall and people can just access your fights for free, and I think that's been good for you.
Yeah, it's been great to access the British public like that. A lot of people don't sign up for sports subscriptions. You get to access the general public, the people that may stumble across boxing by accident and like what they see and just tune in and follow from there. So it's been a great platform for me with Channel 5 and Wasserman Boxing.
So your cousin Chris Jr.'s got the Conor Benn fight coming up. How's that all sort of panning out? Have you had a chat with him about it?
I haven't spoke to him directly since the fight was announced, but I had an idea that he was looking at that fight next. I think he'll be preparing. He'll be starting camp around now really, and going in there to do the business. I think he'll be a lot better in this second fight. I think a lot of factors played into the last fight. The weight as well as other things. So I think we can expect to see a very dominant performance from Chris.
You got any concerns as a family member about what he put himself through and the issue, being hospitalised for a couple of days after the fight? It's a bit worrying, I think, isn't it?
Definitely, and this is one of the things with the weight and the rehydration. He was in hospital for 2 days after from being severely dehydrated, and issues that arise because of that. So it's always a concern that you'd keep them rehydration clauses from the first fight in place for the second. I would have hoped that people learned from the first fight to go into the second fight with a different approach. They've both been in there, they've felt the weight, the difference. They've got a feeling for each other. So I would have expected and liked for those things to be left aside for the second one.
Just quick word on Usyk Dubois. We got that fight this week on talkSPORT. I mean, how do you see that one panning out?
It's a great fight. Dubois, he is a very live wire who's in great form, and he has that energy about him where he will not be denied. But we know what Usyk brings and the level he operates at, the level he fights at, all the different technical things that he's able to do in the ring. So it's an intriguing fight because we want to see Daniel go in there and do the business and come out supreme, and he has all the capabilities. I'm excited.
Yeah, sure. And he's obviously got a point to prove after what happened in the first fight where he felt he was shortchanged.
Yeah. He's definitely got the bit behind his teeth for this one. He feels like he was denied victory last time, and I'm sure he wants redemption now.
Yeah. Well, Harlan, good to see you. Excuse me. We wish you well and heal soon. And
thanks very much.
Ideally, you'd like to get back in with Jack, wouldn't you? And
Most
get
definitely.
get it on again.
Most definitely. But I wish him all the success as well. If he decides to go a different way, then I believe we'll both go on and fight at world level.
Nice one. Good to see you. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Harlan Eubank there. Just a reminder, you've got the latest edition of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver and Harlan. That's available tonight on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel from 8 o'clock. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Roland Butcher will be joining us, the first black player to play for England, popping in to see us in the studio to chat about his autobiography.
talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester. Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Foxes hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed Gyökeres a 5-year contract, and this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for $60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer, and it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
Butcher has joined us in the studio. Just before we chat to him, let's check in with Lisa O'Sullivan at Wimbledon.
Alex de Minaur took the first set against Novak Djokovic here on centre court, the number 11 seed playing Djokovic, a 7-time champion who is not firing on all cylinders, but let's give credit to the Australian, who certainly is. 1 game all in the second set, de Minaur being watched by fiancée Katie Bolter from the players' box. Also in action, we've got another tie break in the match on court 2. Marin Cilic is 2-1 down against Flavio Cobolli, and Belinda Bencic is 3-2 up against Katerina Alexandrova in the second set, having taken the first set on a tie-break.
Thanks, Lisa. Back to Lisa a little bit later on. We've been joined by the former England Middlesex cricketer. His new book, Breaking Barriers, Barbados to England and Back. His autobiography is out now. So, a man I watched a lot when I was a kid, going down to Lords to watch Middlesex play. Here's Roland Butcher. Good afternoon, Roland. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah. You spend half your time here and half your time in Barbados. It could be worse, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be a lot worse. Yes, I spend the winter period, obviously, in Barbados, and then the summer period here in UK.
When you first come over, you talk about in the book, it was a bit of a tough adjustment because anybody makes a big move like that in their lives, it's a real culture shock, isn't it, I would think?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you didn't know that you were coming. My parents had been here some 10, 12 years before that. So obviously I was brought up in the Caribbean. Yes, coming here was quite tough because for a start, the weather's totally different. It's a new country, new culture, new people, new family. Yeah, it was very difficult.
The summers are different. I mean, when you played, it was pretty cold at the start of the season in April. And I remember going to Lords in April and wearing a sheepskin coat.
Well, I got used to that, but I think when I first came here, obviously, the Caribbean is very warm, 365 days of the year. You come to the UK. It was in May, so you thought the weather would be fine, but I found it quite challenging.
You were a good footballer. Andy was just reminding you guys played a bit of football together once. But you played for Stevenage, is that right?
Well, yes. Well, football really got into my blood after I arrived in UK. I hadn't played football before, but having arrived in the bright lights of Stevenage in Hertfordshire, all the kids were playing football on the streets. We're in the West Indies, everybody played cricket. Suddenly, all the kids were playing this strange game. So I eventually got involved with the kids, learned how to play the game and loved it, still love it to this day. And got to the point where I could play it quite well also, and enjoyed it. Yeah, I played for Stevenage as well.
Wow.
It must have been a very proud moment for you when you were selected for England. I mean,
yeah, extremely proud, because as a kid in Barbados, I had an ambition to play international cricket. Obviously, at that point, I would have been thinking West Indies because I didn't know anywhere else. But the opportunity to play for England and to fulfill a dream that I had as a boy was, unbelievable. So when it actually came, I was highly delighted.
You kind of saying about the significance of it, of being the first black player to play for England. You didn't really notice it so much at the time. You didn't feel it quite as much as at the time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, I mean, it's only later on when everybody's saying, you're the first, you've done this, you've done that, that you get to realise the significance of that achievement. But to me, it was just a case of fulfilling a lifelong ambition to play international cricket, albeit for another country, in a different country. But at that time, all I was thinking about just playing well and enjoying it. Didn't think at all for 1 minute that I was breaking any barriers or it was a first. That didn't enter my mind at all.
Yeah, as so many black sportsmen and women over the years have discussed in the past, certainly in the kind of era you played, there was, you did encounter prejudice, you did encounter some pretty awful people along the way.
Yeah, well, obviously, England were in a transition at that period. I mean, the 80s obviously it's a long time ago now, but, things were totally different than it is now. Obviously, people handled it in different ways. But yes, obviously there was a lot of prejudices around then. I personally didn't get a huge amount of it, but I know people who actually did and had to, cope with that situation. But that's the time that we were living in, and you had to do the best that you could.
Yeah.
Did you play against the West Indies at any point?
Well, I was fortunate or unfortunate to have made my Test debut against the West Indies in the West Indies in Barbados.
Wow!
At a time when there were
a fair bit of chirping going on, I would imagine.
Well, in actual fact, it wasn't that bad. Okay. Maybe they gave me the silent treatment, but no, it was really a great occasion to play in Barbados, where I was born, to play your first Test, albeit against the West Indies, but it was fantastic.
A lot of players past and present and the guys you played with had nice things to say. It's kind of writing forwards to Clive Lloyd, Beefy, and Mike Brearley, who you played with at Middlesex as well. So that must have been nice to read their kind words. Desmond Haynes.
Yeah, I was very lucky. Obviously, Mike Brearley is someone I've known since 1972, and to this day we're still very good friends. So, right throughout my career, I was playing under his captaincy. Obviously, Clive Lloyd was captain of West Indies when I played in my first Test match, and Desmond Haynes was someone also who played in that Test match and then became a teammate at Middlesex. So all the guys, and of course Ian Botham was the captain of the England team when I played. So they're all people that I've spent a lot of time with and a lot of fond memories.
Do you get frustrated at the fact that, people say, basketball's taken over and the West Indies aren't producing players? It's not true. They're producing a lot of players, but they're not playing for the West Indies. They're playing in franchise.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a fallacy of the idea of basketball taking over the Caribbean, because for a start, West Indians are very short people, and they have no chance of really playing in the NBA. So that idea is one that I don't know where it came from, but it should be dismissed immediately. They do produce players. We've got some significant problems in the Caribbean where players don't progress. I would think, first and foremost, for me, I think the pitches are not good enough for good cricket, as you're seeing in these series against Australia, where good players, Australian players, are struggling as well.
But they've got themselves into good positions in this series, the West Indies.
Well, they have, but when you have a history of not making a lot of runs, it's only just around the corner collapse. So they need to get the pitches right. They don't play enough first class cricket, and I think one of the major problems is the fact that In the past, the young players got the chance to come to England, get exposure, whether they're playing club cricket, whether they're playing league cricket, or whether they're playing county cricket. That is not available anymore, not because of English cricket or the ECB. I think what's happened now, the government has brought in something called managed migration, and it's not just affecting West Indians, it's affecting all the countries whose players come here in the summer to play cricket or rugby or whatever. And that is a real problem, that the young players, particularly the West Indies, because we don't have a lot of good cricket in the Caribbean, they don't get the exposure to come here. So hence, really, West Indies will struggle for a while because of that.
You were a selector as well, weren't you, Roland? And they've kind of changed the structure of the way it works now on the selectors front.
Yeah, they've done. I am not in favour of the change, not because I'm no longer a selector, because I don't believe that any one coach should be the coach of all three formats in this particular day, when you've got overlapping tours, etc., etc. But then that one coach is also the lone selector. I think it's a conflict of interest. They're totally two different roles, selecting a team and being a coach. You know, being a coach, you're like a father to those players. You know, you're there with them, and then the next day you're determining their future. So it's a system that I don't believe in, and I don't think it will reap any rewards.
What do you make of Bazball? And what England are doing at the moment?
Well, I think what England are doing at the moment has caused all the other teams to move the game on quicker. You know, England play a very aggressive type of game, particularly when they're batting. And if you notice, most of the other teams, now their batting is pretty much the same. Runs are scored at a pretty brisk pace. I think the shorter form of the game has had something to do with that as well. But I think England's approach has been one totally different from when I was around. Then there was a lot of caution. Now it's a lot of bravado.
Yeah, they could have done with a bit of caution yesterday, couldn't they? Really try the concept of batting out the day to save a match. That's gone, isn't it?
Well, for an England side, I think that's history. You know, England don't believe in batting the day out. You know, it's about trying to get ahead of the game or win the game, and that's how they play the cricket.
Trevor Bailey be turning his grey.
Yeah. You've been seeing a bit of the Aussies. We got the Ashes just around the corner. I mean, how do you think we're going to match up with the Aussies in the Ashes?
Well, I think this is probably a good time to play the Aussies. I think their batting at the moment shows a bit of vulnerability, particularly the top order. I don't think they've got settled openers at the moment, and that's usually the platform that they build from. So it's a good time to play them. If England can get their fast bowlers fit and rearing to go, you know, I think they will be in with a very good chance. But a lot will depend if people like Wood and Archer can be fit for the tour.
Yeah, Archer especially.
Well, we're going to see him this week, and hopefully he can do what he did at Lord's last time, where he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but you know, the Australian attack is a quality attack, and at home they'll be very potent. So the England batters, you know, they love to play well, but if they can get into the Australian order early, you know, they've got a chance.
Yeah. We wish you well with the book, Roland. Thanks for popping in to see us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure, and certainly look forward to speaking to you sometime in the future.
Indeed. Roland Butcher's Breaking Barriers, Barbados to England and Back is available now in hardback. And if you love your cricket, check out the talkSPORT cricket YouTube channel for all the very best interviews and chat. And if you're overseas, you can hear commentary of England's third test with India that starts on Thursday at Lord's. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. You can download the Toolstation app for fast-track delivery on thousands of products. Next stop, Toolstation.
plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Oasis kicked off their long-awaited gigs in Cardiff over the weekend. If you didn't manage to get tickets, listen up now as talkSPORT can get you in. Our competition to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester on July the 19th, plus £5,000 spending money in a hotel, ends tonight, Andy.
For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 by the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. Or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July, 18 plus UK, excluding Northern Ireland.
This is a talkSPORT Limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Clips of the month for June coming up just after 3. Before that, though, we go around Europe as always with Andy Brassel. Good afternoon, Andy.
Afternoon, fellas. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I was speaking to Martin Keown. He's very excited about Zubimendi coming in and the impending arrival of Gyökeres. 2 good signings on the face of it for Arsenal.
Yeah, and 2 signings to fill 2 very specific needs as well. We know that Arsenal needed really a defensive midfield specialist to liberate Declan Rice, to get him doing what he's best at nowadays. And apart from that, I think Zubimendi adds another dimension. Not only is he a step up from Partey and Jorginho and younger, but he made an enormous impact, of course, in the Euro 2024 final. He's really good at carrying the ball. He's physical. He doesn't give it away much. All of those sort of things that will work really well. And someone who was modelled in the same pre-Real Sociedad club in San Sebastian as Mikel Arteta and Xabi Alonso were. So, it's a great endorsement. In terms of Gyökeres, he's the striker that I think you would want if you're an Arsenal sympathiser, them to get all along. Of course, they were linked really heavily with Benjamin Šeško, and obviously there was a lot of interest in him. Leipzig asking an awful lot of money for him. But there's no doubt about it, Gyökeres is the pure goal scorer. And that's clearly what Arsenal need, something that's a bit different to what they already have. And, he's doing everything to make this move happen, and he has been for weeks.
Jadon Sancho, say now more likely to join Juve than Fenerbahce. What with Jonathan David? They make some decent signings, aren't they?
Yeah, some interesting signings, and I think it feels like quite a pivotal moment, not just for those players, but for Juventus. So clearly it's a pivotal moment for Sancho, who I think, a little bit like Marcus Rashford at Aston Villa, showed some nice stuff in his loan last season, but not enough for you really to want to go in and bet on him. So it's a point at which Sancho has to find a place where he's going to settle, where he's going to develop, something that Juventus haven't really been great at, developing players, not just young players, but players who are out of that youth category as well over the last couple of years, despite the fact they're leaning in towards it. Kenan Yildiz is maybe the difference. He was great last season and showing that, maybe they're coming out of that difficult period of players just going there and going sideways, a little bit like they have at, say, Manchester United, for example. But I think it's a really massive commitment from Sancho, because he could make more money going to Fenerbahce. There's no doubt about that. He could make probably twice as much money, maybe more, by going to Fenerbahce. But despite having that offer, and despite it being a very attractive offer, he wants to be what he sees that is a cutting edge of elite European football, and he feels Juventus are that. And I think you have to applaud that, even though, of course, they haven't quite agreed the deal yet, because he's trying to squeeze a few more quid out of it. But it's not financially motivated, which I think is quite quite interesting.
Although leaving Chelsea was financially motivated, really, because I think they would have kept him on. He had a reasonable season. He wasn't bad, So
yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
In the Club World Cup, I mean, ideally, I think Gianni Infantino would prefer to see a South American and a European side in there, but there is...
Well, he still might.
Well, he might. That is very true. But PSG Real Madrid Wednesday feels a pretty heavyweight clash.
Yeah, and I don't know what you guys thought, but for me, it felt like PSG Bayern was the final before the final. It was really keenly contested, really good quality, which I don't think you've been able to say about all the matches out there in the States so far. But of course, like, so much of what the game was about was about Jamal Musiala, because we sort of can talk about the fact that PSG rode their luck a little bit in the second half, held out and managed the game quite well to get themselves in a position to win it. The fact that they continued to manage it well when they went down to 9 men, for goodness sakes, in the closing stages, and maybe those suspensions to Pacho's really their best defender, and Luka Hernandez will count against them when it comes to Real Madrid. But it was all about Musiala, because I think it was just such a shocking thing to the players. A really bad injury. What wasn't great to see is Manuel Neuer and the director of football.
He would have gone for that ball,
Max
wouldn't
Eberl.
Yeah.
Well, of course, any goalkeeper would have.
Sure.
And I think it's really, really mischievous, and I understand they're upset, but it's just completely unfair and unreasonable to say that he went out to, not caring about the player, being reckless, Donnarumma. I don't think that's true at all. I think if you look at the challenge, he actually tries to avoid him. He tries to go round him. And it's just unfortunate, really. It's one of those things that can happen, but it's going to have a lasting impact on Bayern, as I was saying on the continent earlier, because really he's out for 4 or 5 months. Yeah. He's their best player. He's the best player in the Bundesliga. And wherever they go, now, of course, they're being linked quite heavily with Luis Diaz, although that is a signing that would go towards that left wing spot. It's not really directly replacing Musiala, even if he could sort of fill in for him in the meantime. And whether that will happen or not, obviously, it's quite delicate around Liverpool at the moment, and they'll be asking a lot of money for him as well. So that's nowhere near done. But really, there's no one who you could get from the Bayern squad or from outside who can do what Musiala does. He's an exceptional player who's great at taking responsibility, who will dare to take on players all the time and always has since he's a teenager. It puts them in this weird sort of holding pattern, I think, for the first half of this season, and it really compromises their chances of being as big a contender for the Champions League as they want to be.
Strange story out of Italy. Genoa apparently were ready to sign Jamie Vardy, the sporting director, and lined up a deal, but Patrick Vieira, the manager, said, not for me, didn't want Jamie Vardy. A bit of a weird one.
I don't know. I suppose Vieira really wants to say, let's be ambitious, because I mean this is no criticism of Jamie Vardy, but I think it's fair to say that his best is behind him now. Now, we know that Serie A clubs, and most Serie A clubs, even like Milan, for example, are playing with lesser means than they have done in the past. But bear in mind that the striker they had the season before last was Matteo Retegui, who was brilliant for them, who went on to be even better for Atalanta. And I guess if you're Vieira, you want a younger guy who you can develop, because he came in and they were looking quite in a bad spot in terms of relegation, and he really stabilised things. He got them well structured. They defended pretty well under him, and he'll want to build on that, I think, and push up towards the European spots, even if some believe that might be a little bit ambitious. And I guess he thinks this is probably a backward step. So I can understand where he's coming from. Even though from our perspective, it would have been really interesting. I would have loved to see Jamie Vardy in Serie A. I think Vieira's ambitious and wants to really build something there.
Just very quickly, it looks like Osimhen's going to stay in Turkey, Andy.
Yeah, it does. And look, Galatasaray have always given him the best offer salary-wise. He had a great time there last season. He really refound his joy in football after some difficult months, a difficult year, really, at Napoli. They've offered him €15 million net. No one in Europe is coming anywhere near that.
Wow.
Now, it seems that he has been angling for a Premier League move for a while, and he's been waiting around to see what the interest is, but no one's really gone all the way in for him. So he would rather be in Europe playing Champions League than he would be out in Saudi. He could make at least twice as much money than he would accepting the Galatasaray offer by going out there. The problem is still agreeing the fee with Napoli, because obviously this requires a serious investment, not just from Galatasaray but from their sponsors, because the club couldn't bear the cost all on its own. That's something that's happening with some of Fenerbahce's signings as well. Of course, they completed the signing of John Duran, which is a big one, on loan yesterday. So that would be a huge sign of intention if they were to get that over the line. And I guess a bit of a blow to Mourinho's hopes of finally winning the Turkish Super League.
Yeah. Andy, for now, thanks very much.
Thanks, you guys.
It's mad, Turkey, isn't it? They spend they pay players an absolute fortune, but they're nowhere near winning the Champions League.
No, not yet. That could change, though. They've got some very good players out there. But our thanks to Andy and the podcast, the excellent podcast of Trans-Europe Express that was on last night for a much deeper dive into the world of European football is available wherever you get your podcasts and via the talkSPORT app. We'll have some clips of the month for you in the next hour. Christina Uncle, a former referee turned analyst, going to join us for a chat. We'll have some transfer stories. Why did John Duran only last 6 months in Saudi? We'll try and get to the bottom of that. And Troy Deeney live from Times Square out there for talkSPORT, working at the closing stages of the Club World Cup, all to come in the final hour.
talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester. Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Foxes hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed Gyökeres a 5-year contract, and this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for 60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer. Meanwhile, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's held talks with Newcastle. For all the latest transfer news, head to the live blog at talksport.com. Now, Wimbledon's apologised to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Sunny Cartle after an embarrassing malfunction of the new electronic line calling system. Wimbledon 2022 finalist Nick Kyrgios told us how he'd react if he was on court.
I think there would have been a couple rackets flying around, that's for sure. It's not good enough, in my opinion.
We're into Manic Monday at Wimbledon today with Novak Djokovic and Yannick Sinner in action. And you can catch Kyrgios' reactions to today's play this evening on our programme Wimbledon Unfiltered with Nick Kyrgios. That's on our YouTube channel. And it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
We're still sort of in that pre-season phase, and I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Clips of the month for June coming up very shortly. We'll also chat to Christina Uncle, the former referee turned analyst, get her thoughts on some of the big calls and certainly that offside against Alessia Russo at Euro 2025 the other day. Ben Jacobs rounds up some of the more interesting transfer stories of the day, and Troy Deeney is out of the Club World Cup. Working for us out at talkSPORT. I think he's in Times Square somewhere, so we'll catch up with Troy for a bit of a conversation a little bit later on. But before that, we'll return to Wimbledon. Lisa O'Sullivan keeping an eye on things. We've been watching Djokovic. He seems to be rallying a bit at the moment.
Yeah, and there has been a very strange atmosphere on centre court, very subdued, which, seeing as Roger Federer is in the royal box, I thought they'd all be giddy. But yeah, Djokovic losing that first set 6-1 to Alex de Minaur, who's full of bounce and energy, and really taking the match to Djokovic. Djokovic rallying, as you say, in this second set and is serving 5-4 as he throws himself to the ground, raises his hands in the air towards his box. He's having a little mutter with himself, and it's a break point for de Minaur. So it's a bit strange. Something is not right about Novak Djokovic. I don't think he feels very well today.
Yeah, he is. He's gesticulating there. He is looking a very frustrated man. Lisa, of all the things that go on at Wimbledon, you wouldn't think thievery would be top of the list. But apparently 500 towels a day are being stolen by the players.
Stunning, isn't it?
Some of them are pretty upfront about the whole thing. They're saying, oh, yeah, I have a couple away every time. Yeah, I just take them home from my mum.
Well, Iga Świątek was taken to task on court about it because she was stuffing her bag with as many as possible. The zip was straining under the effort that she was making. She said, well, I have a lot of people asking me for a Wimbledon towel, and the thing is, when the court is set out and the chairs are put down, they get 2 towels. They get one towel. You'll notice this with Novak Djokovic. They get a green and purple one, of which I am very lucky to have got one. And then there's
Did you nick it,
whatever
Lisa?
colour. Whatever they have a different colour every year.
Right, yeah.
For the other towel, which is a pale blue, they've won this year. But Djokovic also asks for some white towels because the Wimbledon towels, even though they've been washed, they're not very absorbent. So you'll see someone like Djokovic say, I want the white ones. So there'll be a whole part. And I think Nick Kyrgios used to ask for the white ones as well because they absorb better. So Djokovic's area is aglow with white because he's got both chairs. So I think he's probably got about 6 towels down there, including the Wimbledon ones, which I can't see. So I suspect they're already in the bag.
They're made by Christie's of Stockport in Cheshire.
We may be catching up with them later in the week. And I would imagine the MD's not around. He's probably on a round-the-world cruise based on all the towels that are being nicked at Wimbledon. So what about that? Keep them peeled, as they say.
Yeah. Well,
catch the towel thieves.
Even Roger Federer, you mentioned him, he's admitted that he used to steal them and give them away as gifts.
Yeah, I mean, it should be seen as a little perk, shouldn't it? Really?
Is it stealing if they give them to you? Or do they come? Put it this way: a Roger, because they do throw them into the crowd as well. And watch Carlos Alcaraz because he's fantastic when he's going around and he signs absolutely everything. Hats and. Strawberry seems to be the toy of choice this year, and tennis balls, big or small. And he always, when he's giving a towel away, he makes sure that it goes specifically into the hand of the person that he's giving, because there's this kind of ravenous crowd with claws out, and he'll find the tiny little kid that's getting crushed and make sure that they get what he's putting in. But they're given the towels. Dirty, sweaty towels. I suspect somebody might have a market for that on eBay. So it's probably better that the players take them home and give them to friends.
I bet you that little kid is a young nephew, and he just basically takes them home, washes them, and give them back to him. He's a plant. That's what I'm saying. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks very much.
He's got a cut.
Yeah, that's it. Lisa O'Sullivan there at Wimbledon. So it is time, Andy.
Oh yes.
For the clips of the month for June. Yes, clips of the month for June. The way it works is this, if you haven't heard it before. Ideally, you'll need to be on X, Twitter, whatever you prefer to call it, because that's how you can vote. At TSHNJ, TSHANDJ. And what we'll do is we're going to play you 6 clips from June, and we'll ask you to vote for your favourite. There'll be 2 semi-finals, 3 clips in each from each semi-final. And of course, by around 3:30, in around just under 20 minutes' time, we'll have our 2 finalists, and you'll have just shy of half an hour to vote for your favourite. And just before we hand over to Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent with Drive, we will play the winner as selected by you. So, Andy, do you want to kick us off?
I'd love to. We kick off with a medley of our fine newsreaders struggling with some sporting and non-sporting names.
Talk Sport. It looks like Brian and Barnbars prioritising a move to Manchester United.
Former Spurs defender Raymond Vega is fuming at the prospect of Spurs sacking Ange Postecoglou.
Talk Sport.
Thomas Frank's got Harry Redknapp's seal of approval.
US officials have hit back after Iran's supreme leader claimed his country's delivered a slap to America's face. It's pulled out of the UN's nuclear watchdog, with Ayatollah Khamenei's
Ayatollah Khamenei.
The best one's the first one.
Yeah. So there we are, a little roundup. So do you like those? Or maybe you prefer early breakfast?
And boom.
Yeah. That could have been worse. Early breakfast, Katie Shanahan discussing the respective heights of the stars.
But get this, Tom Cruise, Kendrick Lamar, Bruno Mars and Al Pacino are all under 5'8", as is Lionel Messi. And Prince is 5'2", and they're all doing all right for themselves, aren't they?
Well,
you're going to tell her, or am I?
I know.
Yeah, 2 different stories. What Miss Shanahan is saying, of course, is looking back rather than looking forward. 2 different stories, I heard. Anyway, yes. Next, Andy.
Sorry. Kane Reeves now. Paul Ross's co-host on the overnight show, angling for a slot on The Rest Is History.
I'll be walking down a Waterloo train station later and giving a salute. It did happen there, didn't it?
The Battle of Waterloo?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, of course it did, Paul. They went up the London Eye afterwards, didn't they? Napoleon, the Duke of Wellington, and made it up, and then they went out a pint and a hole in the wall. So that's definitely where it did happen. This is Alan Brazil on Breakfast, previewing a guest.
We'll also hear from Australia's all-time try scorer, David Campese, with the Lions now officially down under. Ray will learn how to surf afterward joined by professional waterboarder.
Yeah, that's not surfing, Al. It's not. Waterboarding isn't surfing. If anybody ever offers to take you waterboarding, just say no, you won't like it.
The first time he's had water in his life.
Do you know? I was lying back and I've never drunk that much. Anyway, let's not go there.
No.
Yes, is it me? Yeah, and you know it's the off-season when Breakfast Jeff Stelling is setting co-host Gabby Agbonlahor an ornithology quiz.
Which pink bird is often seen standing on only one leg?
Peacock. There we are.
It's in the pink peacock.
Let's go. Well, they have a lot of them in Birmingham.
Sorry, the clues.
The Pink Peacock. I think it was probably a bar that Gabby used to go to in Birmingham. The Pink Peacock. And finally,
it's Carry On talkSPORT featuring Ben Jacobs and Jamie O'Hara.
To advance this, it would only be a loan, possibly with an option, and Manchester City would have to contribute to the wages, unless, of course, Grealish decided he wanted to significantly reduce his package.
Joining us now is talkSPORT correspondent Ben Jacobs for our weekly BJ. All right, Ben?
might want to rethink the name of that feature, Jay. Anyway, so what did you like? Did you like all the wrong names from the newsreaders? Did you like Prince doing well for himself still? Did you like the Battle of Waterloo Station? Did you like a top waterboarder and Alan Brazil? Was it Gabby and the ornithology quiz, or was it Carry On talkSPORT? There are two semi-finals going up at TSH&J in a matter of moments, and you can vote, and we'll ask you to vote in the next 15 minutes when we'll have our two finalists, and again they'll go head to head, and we'll have a winner for you just before 4 o'clock. And we will play the winner nominated by you at TSH&J. That's TSH&ANDJ. They're up there now. I can see them now. So go and vote for your favourites. And yeah, we'll bring you the winner a little bit later on. Christina Uncle joining us for a chat from the world of refereeing. Former ref turned analyst. We'll be talking about Euro 2025 and other matters besides. We're here with our good friends at Tool Station. Delivery in as little as 30 minutes with Fast Track. Next stop, Tool Station.
plays that villain role very well now. It's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Well, we've been seeing a few of these refereeing tweaks that they brought in for the Club World Cup. We even saw one of the 8-second rules implemented on a keeper, didn't we, earlier on in the tournament? So the players look a little bit nonplussed by it all. Joining us now...
They're reacting to it, though. I'm noticing the goalkeepers are getting rid of the ball quicker.
Well, let's get the thoughts now of the former referee turned refereeing analyst, Christina Uncle. Hi, Christina.
Gentlemen, hello, how are you?
Yeah, we're not too bad, thank you. Yeah, it was saying one of the earlier games, it was Clement Turpin, obviously one of the world's most experienced refs, but didn't like the way the goalkeeper was hanging on to the ball, blew the whistle, gave the corner. So, what have you made of that? I mean, what have you made of that law and how it's being implemented?
From the referee perspective, we actually enjoy this law. There has since the law of the 6 seconds, it's been a very hard law to enforce because if you enforced it, you were considered too draconian as a referee. But if you don't enforce it right, then you have fans counting, the crowd counting, and you always have those issues. So we actually appreciate this 8-second rule. It gives us plenty of time to give it ample enough warning, and the repercussion of the corner kick doesn't exceed the expectation of what the equal punishment should be for the crime, right? Prior to it was an indirect free kick inside the penalty area. Very hard to administer an indirect free kick, knowing it has to touch twice before the back of the net. So the application of it, I think it's been well received too from players, from technical staff. It's something that's very clear. It's one of the recent law changes that I think everyone has welcomed.
Do you like ref cam, Christina? Would you like to run around with a camera next to your ear?
I was watching Anthony Taylor the other night. I was like, God, how heavy is that? How much tape does he need to keep it up and make sure it doesn't fall out of his ear? But it's interesting. It does change the dynamics quite a bit. It does change the dynamic quite a bit of maybe how you talk to players, but vice versa. Ideally, how they talk to you. Because you know that everything is scrutinized. Before, you just considered where the mic cameras were, or the mics on the corners, right? You call that boom mics. Now you realize every little thing is being dissected, whether for good or for bad. At the end of the day, this is modern football 5.0 now with all this technology. So me personally, I wouldn't have wanted it.
But the stuff isn't released, but I suppose it is there on record, isn't it? As you said,
you can't tell much from it, though. It's so shaky.
It's an odd thing, isn't it?
I don't really like it.
It's quite an odd angle. It's quite computer gamey, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I'm fascinated those who actually like to watch the ref cam from that kind of a viewer. I know we sometimes have star cam on TV and we focus on one player the whole time. But for me, I think I would get a little bit sick watching that. I know when I did it live, there was adrenaline, there was a rush, but you're feeling it as opposed to watching it.
Yeah. Now, something we have seen a few times is the players having to be taken off the pitch because of the sort of adverse weather conditions.
6 or 7 games, though.
Yeah. I mean, you're over there in the States.
Excuse me.
It is a bit of a concern going into the World Cup, and it's obviously the last thing a referee ever wants to do. And I suppose you're kind of constantly in contact with the stadium managers and the people on the sidelines who are having to probably make those calls.
Yeah, and you know what? This is one thing that's slightly bit surprising, just because I here in the States, particularly Florida, specifically Tampa, and we are the lightning capital of the Northern Hemisphere. So I've been trained since young on how to deal with adverse weather issues. The delay is unfortunate, right? Because you sit there and I know there's 2-3 hours, right? The risk of injury to players is high. Getting back into it, even a risk for referees. I remember hurting myself, I think, a couple times on just coming back out of cold, right? And just getting right back into the game, even though you have a 10-minute warm-up period. So There's concern, but I think every, World Cup that we've had, there's always been concern about weather elements. It's too hot. I know that's why we moved it from the summer to the winter when we were over there in Qatar. But at the end of the day, it is manageable. It's pretty predictable. I know we prefer evening, nighttime games, but it is something that just has to be managed. It's just part of the game. It's part of having a game that is played outdoors and not underneath any cover.
The worst one was the Chelsea game with 5 minutes to go and they go off for 2 hours. It was just ludicrous, really. And you wonder, couldn't they have just finished the game?
Well, it's too risky. What if some player gets injured or something? You just can't. That's the thing. You just can't risk it. I mean, so you're down in Florida, you know what that's like, and you've probably had to make that call or been involved in that call a fair few times, and it's not an easy one to make, I guess.
It's not an easy one to make because from the referee standpoint, right, much of it is made by, to your point, the technology within the competition organizers telling you within a 10-mile radius whether it's safe or it's not. But I believe, and I can't remember exactly which Syria Academy group was playing, but the video is going around where there's a lightning strike on the field. And as soon as you get that lightning strike, there was 3 players who hit the floor. That's something that we're trained here in Florida, right? You're always concerned, maybe we can push it, but at what point do you want to risk that when if there is a lightning strike that hits the field, it doesn't have to hit a person, can still paralyze and kill someone. So there is that legitimate concern, but it all comes down to the competition organizers, safety, and for lack of a better term, liability and lawsuits. We are in Florida, or we are in the United States. The legal implications are pretty high.
No, especially with multi-million-pound footballers, etc. The so over at Euro 2025, and if you're aware of this, we were feeling slightly sawn off by an offside call against Lionesses Euro in the England-France game. Not the reason they lost. No, France were the better team.
I just wonder. It's one of the worst I've ever seen that it could lead to Arsene Wenger's plans being implemented quicker, because you can't have that as offside.
What does Arsene say? Explain for those that don't know.
It's basically that there has to be clear daylight, isn't it, between the players, that you can see that the guy is clearly offside, not...
Or the woman in this case.
Or the woman, the player.
Yes.
The player is offside,
yes.
And, not an inch of your shoulder. That is just not what offside's meant to be or should be.
I would agree. The offside laws ensure that the attacker doesn't gain an unfair advantage. We all agree with that. This has been going on since the inception of not just the VAR technology, but most importantly, how it's been highlighted through semi-automated offside technology, now with the 3D graphics. Then you have the elevation of what we had in the men's Euros, is the same as the women's Euros, is the tracking technology within the ball. The best reference for all of you and over there in England, I learned last year, is your snickometer, right? Something I learned last year covering the men's Euros. Yes, thank you. I've fallen in love with the English culture, so I'm learning quite a bit. But, it is so accurate to the millimeter of a second. But at the end of the day, we're not talking, and no one loves technical arguments. No one thinks that a quarter of an inch of a toe is essentially what gained an unfair advantage. So I think there does need to be a change in the law. I think this is, whenever it happens at major tournaments, helps push, as you mentioned, Arsene, to be able to push this a little bit further and to move this along quicker. At the end of the day, offside is offside. There's a black and white, but at the same time, there should be basically a margin of error, that if it's only offside by so much based on the technology, then that should be left alone. Because when you're in the game, you know it, you feel it, you can sense when someone's offside and when someone's gaining an unfair advantage. So if you're not calling it on the field and the decision is not to call it on the field, there should be the benefit of the doubt. Even though the technology says it's a black and white, there should then be a margin of error for the VAR to not have to send that down and to allow the referee's decision to remain.
And just a very quick word on what's been going on with the US national team while the Club World Cup's been unfolding. They've had the Gold Cup. After a bad run of results, Mauricio Pochettino took the US national team to the final. They lost it to Mexico 2-1, but there was a contentious issue. The Poch was railing against a refereeing call. He thought a clear handball by a Mexican defender inside his own penalty that the referee, Mario Escobar, didn't give. What was your take on it, Christina?
Yeah, for me, it's from a refereeing perspective, it's easy, no handling offense. I've actually been surprised at the chatter associated with this. Did it hit his hand? 100% it hit his hand, but you have to take considerations of what we're determining is it a deliberate handling offense? Keyword deliberate. Do not put intent in this. Just a matter of, is it deliberate and natural in the play of this game? Challenge is being made, contact, right? He's about to brace, he's about to fall. Naturally, people put their two hands to extend to brace from that fall. And he also is the one who ends up hitting the ball into the low end. So his hand hits it. Now, if there was a secondary movement, right, his hand hit the top of the ball, right? There is a movement, but that's his hand falling off the ball. But if he had taken it and moved it, a secondary movement, then yes, we have a deliberate handling offense. Here, he's falling, he's bracing, hand goes on top of the ball. It's that one instance, it falls off. He lets it go, and we move on. Referee Mario Guatemala referee, very, very experienced in CONCACAF and has gone to World Cups. Sitting there, sees it instantly. No handling offense. Very surprised by Pochettino's comments. I mean, naturally, I know sometimes managers have to be in the media to kind of help rile up support, considering how our U.S. men's national team has been struggling. And they really need to learn how to erase chatter and noise in order to be efficient for next year. But very surprised that many people are thinking and wanting and considering this a handballing offense, because there is no unfair advantage gained. Most importantly, what is the tactical advantage for the defender to handball right there, especially since there's no striker nearby? So for us, from the refereeing perspective, very easy, no handling.
And they're the ones that do annoy fans when someone's clearly just fallen on the ball and they give it. Yeah. You often see them in the Champions League, which is always very frustrating. But Christina, for now, good to talk to you. We'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks very much.
Yes, gentlemen, great to talk to you as well.
Take care. There's Christina Uncle, the former referee turned refereeing analyst. Thanks to her. We're going to talk transfers, look at some of the transfer stories of the day. Then we're off to the Club World Cup where Troy Deeney is out in New York. He's going to be covering the latter stages for us here at talkSPORT, and we'll catch up with Troy, see what he's made of it so far. Apparently ticket prices have dropped quite considerably if you want to take in some of the later games.
Surprising.
13 quid will get you through the door. Not so bad. Anyway, Troy joins us for a chat a little bit later on. talkSPORT understands Chris Wilder is one of a number of candidates for the vacancy at Leicester. Former Wolves and Bournemouth boss Gary O'Neill also has a number of admirers among the Foxes hierarchy, but that looks less likely at the moment. Elsewhere today, is Victor Gyökeres the missing link for Arsenal? Well, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook reckons so. He's got the latest on this.
No fee agreed yet. We know that Sporting are holding out for a package worth in excess of €80 million. I think Arsenal are trying to get it done for slightly less than that. He has verbally agreed, Gyökeres, a 5-year contract. And this is the one signing that Arsenal fans want, isn't it?
This after the confirmed signing of Martin Zubimendi for $60 million from Real Sociedad. Elsewhere in the transfer market, talkSPORT understands Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus includes add-ons, but they only kick in if they win the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, West Ham have told them to come back with a more realistic offer, and it looks like Andy Farrell's getting closer to deciding his Lions test lineup to face Australia. He's made 14 changes to the side who beat the Waratahs rather unconvincingly. Former Lion Ben Kay reckons it's better to get the suboptimal performances out of the way early on.
I think the Lions will be happier with their preparation, particularly the 2 games before the Waratahs, than probably the Wallabies are with theirs.
Remember, that game against the Brumbies is live exclusively on talkSPORT 2 Wednesday morning.
We played you the clips of the month for June a little bit earlier on, and we now have our 2 winners. The finalists will be up in just a few moments, and you'll be able to vote for either. The winner of the first playoff was the News Arena medley with 54%.
Tremendous.
And coming through in the second semi-final was Gabby Agbonlahore's ornithology quiz on breakfast. So if you vote for either of those, or you want to hear either of those again, the News Arena medley or Gabby's Peacock, they're going to be up at TSH and J, TSHANDJ. We'll have the final for you set up. Give us a minute and our team will put it up and you can vote for your favourite, and we'll play the winner just before 4 o'clock. We hand over to Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent. Just before we talk transfers, check in once again with Lisa O'Sullivan at Wimbledon, where those magic powers seem to be working for Novak, Lisa.
Yeah, I think it's quite windy here today. Djokovic hates playing outside, I think it's fair to say, and as in he hates it when it's windy conditions, so perhaps that's factoring in a little bit. Also, the sun keeps coming and going because it's quite thick clouds when they do come, and they're putting on their caps and then taking off their caps. So he's now serving, but he forgot to put his cap on, and it's brilliant sunshine, so he's not going to be happy about that either. 1-2, he is in the third set. They are 1 set apiece. And just to say, Ben Shelton and Lorenzo Sonego are underway. These 2 have met at the Australian Open and the French Open, and you have to go back to 1984 for 2 players to have met in 3 slams when Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe kept bumping into each other at the majors.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Back to Lisa a little bit later on. But time to talk transfers. Look at what's going on in the market. Anil Kandola joins us, part of our top team on the transfers. Hi, Anil.
A very good afternoon to you, gentlemen. Yeah, it's certainly getting to the strong stage of the transfer window, shall we say. Of course, a lot of teams returning for pre-season, so a lot of teams will want to get their business done as soon as possible, and we're really seeing that now with some of the names I'm sure we're about to discuss.
Well, the Yorkers deal, I mean, they're still, apparently Arsenal still sorting out the finer points with Sporting. It's not been an easy process, but it looks like they're going to get this done pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's been an easy process in quite a number of ways, really, if I'm being honest. In terms of obviously his current situation at Sporting Lisbon, he obviously had the desire to go. There was this idea of a gentleman's agreement. When we're in 2025, I'm not sure how much weight that holds, this so-called handshake agreement. We'll let you go at a certain price, etc., etc. But it seems, of course, that Gyökeres, as I said, it probably ended a little bit sour with Sporting Lisbon. But as our chief football correspondent here at talkSPORT, Alex Cook, has reported for quite some time now, Victor Gyökeres has made it clear to his friends, family and his surrounding camp of agents and all alike that Arsenal will probably be the one club that he does end up, and that's the one club that he's always wanted. And I think from an Arsenal perspective, look, if you have a player who's very sought after, there have been a number of clubs who have looked at this individual, and for him to make it very clear that this is the project that he wants to join, I think is very exciting. And yeah, terms, as we understand, have been agreed from his side on a 5-year deal. This has always been the project that has attracted him the most out of all the potential options, and yeah, amongst some of the names like Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, no, he didn't want to join his former manager. It's Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. So we do expect this deal, this big deal, this saga almost to come to an end for Arsenal. They will very, very soon, probably this week, in fact, get their striker through the door.
It says a bit about United, doesn't it? Because they pay top wage, and the fact they still didn't want to go there.
No, John Duran, it didn't last long at Al Nassr in Saudi. He's gone on loan to Fenerbahce. Apparently, from what we understand, really did struggle to settle, and what was going on in his personal life affected the way things were on field. So they've obviously both decided to sort of cut their losses.
Yeah, of course. There was a lot of excitement when this deal was happening at the time. The fact that Saudi Arabia and Al Nassr in particular could get their hands on a really, really exciting and young striker. I think that was the real key element for the Saudi Arabian side to pursue this individual. But yeah, John Duran, it's the season. He's on loan now. He's in Turkey. And if you put that into perspective, at age just 21, he's had experience in the MLS. He's had experience in Saudi Arabia, Turkey as well now, and of course England. So I think despite it being a bit of a difficult one, I think this can really highlight exactly what would be attractive of going to Saudi Arabia if you were a youngster. Just because you go there, that doesn't mean you're in the twilight years of your career. You can earn a lot of money and still return at a very decent level of football. So yeah, John Duran will be playing the remainder of the season in Turkey.
What's going on with Annie Alenga at the moment, Annie? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, this one I think will certainly be one to keep your eye on over the next few days, especially this week. Newcastle, as we understand it, have seen a £45 million bid rejected for the Nottingham Forest player. It seems that all parties are very relaxed about the situation. Langa, very different to his Swedish counterpart in Victor Gyökeres. He's not pushing for a move. He's not desperate. He hasn't made it clear that he wants to leave the project currently at Nottingham Forest, who are, of course, in Europe for the first time in a very long time. So he is obviously a very key part to that team. And ultimately, if Newcastle do come in with a higher bid, we do expect this one to go through. But I think they're probably around the £10 million mark away from a deal that Forest will be very happy with. In excess of over 60 million is probably where they'd like to begin the discussion at least. But yeah, Anthony Elanga very high up in Newcastle's wish list. But I do think it has been a very frustrating time for Eddie Howe. Of course, Brian Mbeumo was a name amongst others that Newcastle have been interested in, seem to have missed out on him as well. So yeah, I think this one will be a really welcomed addition to Eddie Howe's project at Newcastle. Of course, the fact that they've got European football again on their minds, I think this will be a really welcomed addition in that forward line.
A lot of Newcastle fans trying to read into the fact that he's not back at Forest pre-season training today, but apparently the word in Nottingham was that was always the case. He was given an extended leave of absence, so I don't think there's anything to read into that, but we shall see.
I do think by the start of the season, all the top clubs, especially the Champions League clubs, they'll all have got players. In fact, the whole of the league, that's what makes the Premier League what it is, really. So some clubs take longer to do their business, but there's...
Such as Spurs, which is what we come on to now with Mohamed Kudus, and apparently the word from West Ham is be a bit more realistic than 50 million quid for Mohamed Kudus. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near the 85. So I don't quite know where we're at with this, but is there a feeling that they'll get a deal done?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't go so far to say that West Ham were offended by this offer, but I don't think they were particularly enamoured by it. So I think, as you've already alluded to there, Tottenham will have to up their game in terms of a price tag in order to get their desired man through the door. I do think, as we've already alluded to today, that there's still a bit of time to get people through the door, but I think this one will be something that Tottenham do revisit with a higher bid. Of course, this is just classic transfer negotiations. The club who want to buy will start at a little bit less than they're willing to pay, and the club that are going to sell will always add an extra 15-20 million just to give yourself a bit of wiggle room when it comes to negotiations. But yeah, Mohamed Kudus, a player that Tottenham do want through the door. Of course, Thomas Frank looking to make a big splash, not just on the pitch but also financially, as we're seeing now with Mohamed Kudus. So yeah, I think this one will be again another one to watch as we go through the week, because Tottenham are starting to make their movements, and rightly so, because Thomas Frank, he does have a big job on his hands.
And we heard today that Callum Wilson is leaving Newcastle, and Andy's response to that was, and I quote, "He's got West Ham written all over him." That may or may not be true. We'll find out. Yeah, but anyway, because of that, it seems that Newcastle was showing an interest in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he could be potentially heading there from Everton. I mean, look, he had a really injury hit couple of seasons, but there is definitely a player
it's
there.
worth a punt.
If you can keep him fit, I suppose
Yeah.
it's the nature of the contract, but it's an interesting one, Anil.
Yeah, for sure. I think, in an ideal world, I know we of course don't operate like this in reality, but if you could say that Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be guaranteed to stay fit all season, I think there would be a lot more suitors than we're seeing at the moment. But of course, the injury record is something that haunts him. It's a very difficult situation for a club to take the risk on at the end of the day. Despite his ability, we saw probably in particular the season or the time under Carlo Ancelotti, what he could really provide. He's popped up with some big moments at Everton. He's been there for quite a long time now. But yeah, he's available on a free transfer, which I think opens the door certainly to a few more clubs being attracted to this proposition. And from what we understand, Newcastle boss Eddie Howe has been a big admirer of Dominic Calvert-Lewin for a long time. And, I think this will really highlight the idea and the notion that if you can play under the right manager who understands you, who appreciates you, and also realises that you may not be fit for the whole of the season and really provide a confident environment for someone to blossom in, then we could potentially see the best of Calvert-Lewin again. So, yeah, like I said, there's so much going on. Of course, as I've already said, the fact that pre-season is upon us now, clubs are arriving back to training and they really want to make sure that they get enough time as they can with their new signings to really bed them in. But whatever happens with Calvert-Lewin, with Kudus, with all of the names that we've mentioned, we'll be across it on talkSPORT.
Nice one. Cheers, Anil. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your show. Take care, guys.
Anil Condola there. Keep an eye on that. As Anil just said, we're right across that for you. The Transfer Insiders podcast is on the talkSPORT app, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can head over to talksport.com. Check out the live blog with all the transfer news. Troy Dean is going to join us from Times Square.
Beautiful.
In a few. I wonder if he's going to be like he's next to the singing cowboy. That bloke sings in his underpants.
I haven't seen him.
We'll find out. Troy with us in a few moments' time. We're here with Tool Station. Get fast track delivery in as little as 30 minutes on the Tool Station app. Next stop, Tool Station.
He plays that villain role very well now. That's crying out for a little bit more attention. It comes with a lot of crazy people. I took it personally, and it kind of made me rebel a bit more. To be honest, I don't really care anymore. I'm never going to change.
Now, Oasis kicked off their long-awaited gigs in Cardiff, which we said Andy Goldstein. Yeah, Andy Goldstein was there. He'll tell you more about that before, I'm sure. And if you didn't manage to get tickets, listen up now, as talkSPORT can get you in. Our competition to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester, July the 19th, plus £5,000 spending money in a hotel, ends tonight, Andy.
For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 by 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2, plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July, 18 plus UK, excluding Northern Ireland.
That's right. Yeah. This is the talkSPORT Limited promotion run on talkSPORT Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's apply, and you can read them at talksport.com. We're struggling to get through to Troy. He's obviously having too good a time in Times Square.
Yeah,
but we'll try again in a moment. But because Lisa's back, we're going to get an update on how Djokovic is getting on, what's going on at Wimbledon. We've got some other bits for her to run past her. Hi, Lisa.
Hiya. Yeah, Alex de Minaur may well regret not taking that second set against Novak Djokovic. 6-4 was how the Serb replied to that 6-1 first set by the Australian. But we're looking at the average serve, or the serve quality score, and it shows that in that first set, Djokovic was 6.2. Now, the tour average is around 7.1. He upped it in the second set to 8.2, but this the third set, it's over 9 now. So even though Djokovic is not well and not feeling great, his serve is getting him out of a lot of trouble here, and he's taking a lot of deep breaths. And it just shows the quality of the man, that even though he's not 100%, he's still in this match. 3-4 in the third set, 1 set all.
What do those numbers refer to? I didn't understand that, Lisa. Sorry. I mean...
Yeah, sorry. So they've got this system, tennis viz they're called, and they judge each shot and work out the quality out of 10.
Oh, right.
And in the match, say the Jack Draper match with Milan Marin Cilic, in the second set, his forehand, out of 10, when the tour average is around about 7.1, his forehand was 9.8. It was unplayable. So when you can see that a player is landing the shots to almost perfection, taking the racket out of someone else's hands, these numbers are now showing in what area, whether it's the backhand, the forehand, the serve, drop, volley, whatever. They've got numbers for everything in tennis, but basically the quality of the shot is now being judged, and you'll see that in the bottom right of your screen quite often on the monitors that they're popping up this year. It's something new to just actually judge quite how well. When you look at that and think that's a good shot, I'll turn around and say, yeah, that's 9 out of 10.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
is all the tech working today? We've not had any dodgy line calls, have we, because of AI? Is everything all right today, Lisa, so far?
Everything seems to be tickety-boo so far. Nobody's been... no one's been cussing or staring pointedly at the lines.
Or suggesting that it's bent because she's a home player, as Pavlyuchenkova was yesterday.
She was quite funny after the game interview, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is as well that I think the problem, you're talking about suggesting that, as you did, Paul, it has to be 100% trustworthy for that very reason.
That's true, yeah.
If somebody backstage is switching it on and off, that would be bad. I think I'm not going to go any deeper than that.
I like Sunny Carter. She's got a bit about her. She's got an interesting character, isn't she? I mean,
she really is, yeah.
Yeah, she's talking about she's going to get a tattoo done to mark how far she got in the tournament. Possibly she'd been wearing a lot of vintage Adidas gear as well. So she seems like, you know...
I think it's Green Flash. Do you remember Green Flash from the 70s?
Yeah.
I kind of think
they were
it's modelled
Dunlop,
on
though,
that.
Lisa. That was
They were Dunlop.
But yeah, I can see. These are sort of Stan Smith, aren't they? The little green Adidas logo type thing. It's got that vibe to it.
One of her tattoos is an eagle because Kartal in Turkish means eagle.
And we saw those pictures the other day when she was 9 playing against Emma Raducanu in tournaments, but we probably will see more of her now. You think this wasn't a flash in the pan, she's one to watch, is she?
Well, you know, we take into context that a lot of people watch tennis for 2 weeks a year when Wimbledon comes round, but she won her first tournament in September last year in Tunisia. She spent a lot of the time travelling on her own on the tour because she just didn't have the funds to pay for a coach or anyone else to go with her. But that win in Tunisia has kind of really spurred her on. She got to the last 16 in Indian Wells, and coming to Wimbledon was just outside, was 51 in the world. So she was here by right. She was here by ranking. No wild card. Didn't have to qualify. And I haven't seen where her ranking's going to be, but because she's now higher up in the rankings, she's far more likely to be playing in more high quality tournaments, which is only going to improve her tennis. So yes, we will be seeing a lot more of her.
Good. And celebs, you're catching, I mean, like, every day is just another litany of celebs.
Oh, yes.
Andrew Garfield was there, ex-Spider-Man with his new squeeze. Who else do we have? We had Erin Doherty from The Crown. We had Poppy Dillon.
Michael McIntyre today in the Royal Box.
Oh, yeah, Michael McIntyre.
Mary Berry, though, she was doing what Andy Murray, she's wide open mouth.
Yeah.
Quite a strange.
Cammy was there. I don't know if you saw Cammy was there, apparently. He's in the Royal Box alongside Brian Lara.
You won't see Andy Murray here. You won't see Andy Murray here. He doesn't want to come. He's not interested in watching tennis. And in his days off, he's been playing golf with Carlos Alcaraz in Carlos Alcaraz's day off, which has now turned into a bit of a running joke. Because when Alcaraz is doing his post-match interviews, the question's always, right, so you've been playing golf again with Andy Murray? And he says, yeah, he beat me. But yesterday he said, I let him beat me. It's a running joke.
And there, of course, the tabloids loving the idea there could be something in Emma Raducanu and Carlos Alcaraz being an item.
She did watch him.
Then she rocks up. She's sitting alongside Mark Petchey, her coach, so she could argue, she's at a loose end now. But the tabloids will be loving it. They're going to be looking for her in the crowd for every one of his games, aren't they?
Yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, they're paired to play at the US Open in this complete shake-up that they've got for the mixed doubles, which is going to be played before the singles draw actually gets underway in New York, and there's a huge prize fund available for it. It hasn't gone down particularly well with the professional doubles tennis players because they've got these all-star setup. But yeah, Raducanu and Alcaraz made friends at the US Open in 2021 as she went on that rocket ride through, because they were seeing a lot of each other on the court, as it were, because they both went deep into the tournament. So they were both hanging around. I mean, nobody really knows what the rumours are, but I think the two of them are just really good friends. There seems to be a lot of love around the club in general this year.
What would they be called? Carl Lemmer, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to give it too much thought yet.
Right, does it?
No, see you, Lisa. Thanks very much.
Lisa.
Bye.
Lisa O'Sullivan there, back after 4 with the Drive Guys to keep you in touch. Just very quickly on the unusual attire. And this was because of Pete Douglasy wearing a brown trilby when he played football yesterday. I played for a medical 11 versus a hospital admin team. We substituted a doctor that wore a pair of sunglasses, which he removed every time he went for a header. He also wore a personal air purifier around his neck, which was not for medical reasons, but to combat bad oxygen in Abergavenny, he said. It was a very hot bank holiday, and he didn't last very long. Dylan, thank you very much for that. And indeed, all your emails and texts. And thanks for voting in the Clips of the Month.
Yes.
We have our winner with 64% of the vote. You preferred the little newsreader medley.
Marvellous.
Struggling with some sporting and one particular non-sporting name. Here it is.
Talk Sport.
It looks like Brian and Barnbars prioritising a move to Manchester United. Former Spurs defender Raymond Vega is fuming at the prospect of Spurs sacking Ange Postecoglou.
Talk Sport.
Thomas Frank's got Harry Redknapp's seal of approval.
US officials have hit back after Iran's supreme leader claimed his country's delivered a slap to America's face. It's pulled out of the UN's nuclear watchdog with Ayatollah Khamenei's.
Yeah, the old Ayatollah Khamenei. So there we are. Thanks for everybody who voted. Andy's doing a Rare Tuesday switch with Charlie, so you'll be here tomorrow, Andy.
I will be.
Okay, until then, have a good evening. Stick around for Drive. Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent are up next.